Hello and welcome to the Weekly Stuff Podcast with Jonathan Lack.
And Sean Chapman.
We are here to talk about stuff this week on the show. We have a packed episode for you guys. I'm going to be giving my first impressions of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is finally out this week. We also have some catch-up to do on this season of Doctor Who, which ended today with just a terrible kick in the nuts of an episode. So we will talk about all of that and a couple of weeks' worth of episodes we missed out on. I have played a little bit of the English releases of Persona 3 and Persona 5 Dancing, so we will talk about that. We have more things to talk about with Hitman 2. We have news, including the Game Awards were this week, which is a giant advertising show, and so there were a lot of advertisements and announcements, and at least one of those has both of us very excited. Maybe you can guess which one it is. There was a new trailer for an Avengers movie. There is a lot to go over this week. Sean, how are you feeling?
I am tired. I'm a very tired person right now, mostly for stuff going on in personal life stuff, because it's the end of the semester.
Yep.
Also, this just Doctor Who has been it was just so soul-crushing watching this season finale. But I have had the solace of Hitman 2 to soak into, and I killed a lot of people in Hitman 2 last night, and it was bad, but it felt good. You know, it's just it's been one of those weeks.
I'm excited to hear about it. I'm a little low energy too. I'm trying to put on my best high energy face tonight for the power of voice, I guess, for the podcast. But I'm also dealing with end of the semester stuff. I have 1 week to go. I had 3 big projects I had to complete. I've got 2 down, 1 to go. I finished one of my 2 research papers. I finished the movie I've been making for a production class I was in. So hopefully, I have not talked about that before. I made a little short film. It's about 20 minutes long. I think it's pretty good. My brother Thomas did the music for it. It's premiering this week, so I will probably put it online after that, and maybe I'll direct you guys to it next week. But you can look forward to that. I don't know. It's very kind of avant-garde, so I don't know if anyone will be interested in it. But I did do that, and then I have another research paper to write. In addition to just playing an insane number of video games, Sean, because I have been juggling more games at once than I think I ever have for the purposes of this podcast. Because over the last week I've been playing Smash Bros. Obviously just came out, but I was playing Dragon Ball FighterZ, catching up on that because I finally got the DLC. I'm playing Hitman 2, doing a bunch of stuff in that. I've been playing Pokemon Let's Go. And then we had Persona 3 and 5 Dancing, which also came with a copy of Persona 4 Dancing. That's too many games.
That is too many games. You are correct.
Too many games. And luckily, I don't think I'm buying any more games before the end of the year. But, you know, I still would love to go back and, revisit some things from earlier in the year. Man, it's going to be a tight race to the finish.
Yeah. There's stuff. It's just too much. There's too much stuff.
It's okay. We're almost done, Sean. And then we'll have some time, hopefully, to figure all this out before top 10 time at the end of the month or in January. All right. So that is what's going on this week. Do you have any stuff, Sean? Is anything you've been up to that you would want to talk about that does not fall into the purview of all these other things?
There's one I want to touch on because it's a really weird anime I've been watching that I've been really delightfully surprised by. That I've just it's a nice low key kind of show that I've just dipped into a couple of times in the past couple of days, and I think I have 1 or 2 episodes left. Called Cells at Work, or Hataraku Saibo. I think it's under Cells at Work on Crunchyroll, so if people want to watch it, that's the avenue to go to. And
I typed it out as CELL''S at work because I imagine it is a sitcom about Cell from Dragon Ball Z getting an office job, and it's got a peppy 90s theme song, Cell's at work with his friends at work.
Yeah, and then at the end of each episode, he absorbs all of his coworkers and moves on to a different office. Yeah. That sounds like a great show. That's not what this show is. This show is... Jonathan, do you remember the movie Osmosis Jones?
Yes, but Sean, that is the first time that thought has been unlocked in my brain since about the year 2003.
Yeah, exactly. But Osmosis Jones is by far the easiest comparison because it's a similar sort of conceit in that it is... What if we take the microbiology of the inner workings of the human body and kind of anthropomorphized it and made it into a story? But where Osmosis Jones is a very middling early 2000s Western animated film, this is a shockingly high quality educational show that I'm so flabbergasted constantly at how much I've been enjoying this because microbiology is not an area of science that is usually something I'm hugely interested in. I like more the physics and kind of chemistry side of things. But there's just something, I forget what I saw, but I saw something several months ago, probably on like Twitter, that was like a clip from the show that I was like, oh, that looks kind of cute. Maybe I'll check that out. And I had just enough free time this week to be like, playing a level of Hitman is too much time. I can watch like a 20-minute episode of this anime and watch the first episode. And I'm constantly shocked at just how, one, scientifically accurate this thing is. Like, it is so fucking laser precise in most of its references and most of like the material it deals with, but while also being a really like legitimately entertaining show with interesting characters and strong plots. And each episode is kind of based around some different, like, there's like an allergy episode, there's an episode where whoever the body is that all these cells are in has like suffered an abrasion wound, and so there are like germs coming in from that. And so each one is themed around some sort of thing that has occurred to this body. Unlike Osmosis Jones, you never cut outside and see who this person is. It's not fucking, I think it's Bill Murray in that movie. It's not whoever the person, the human being is. You never see that.
It was Bill Murray, and I want to say his daughter was played by a young Hayden Panettiere. And if I actually am correct on that, I'm gonna jump out a window. But I'm looking it up right now.
Okay, because I want to stress, I never looked up whether or not it was Bill Murray in that movie. I was just going on pure instinct.
Bill Murray's easy to remember.
Yes. But I only saw that movie once, Jonathan. It wasn't even in the theater. I think it was probably on, like, Cartoon Network or something when they played it. But anyways,
no,
while you're looking
I'm
up...
wrong. It was not a name actor in the role of his daughter. Hey, to be fair to me, Hayden Panettiere was the daughter in a lot of movies at that time. So
it's true, yes.
I might be thinking of the movie Racing Stripes, where she rides a zebra.
Okay, I had never heard of that.
I mean, while we're doing shitty comedies from the early 2000s. But no, Sean, I have brought up the show Cells at Work on my phone on Crunchyroll here because I wanted to add it to my queue before I forget, so I can watch it later. And the titles of episodes are amazing. The first episode is called Pneumococcus, or something like that. There's episodes like Cedar Pollen Allergies, Erythroblasts and Myelocytes. There's an episode just called Blood Circulation, and my favorite is the 2-part finale, which is Hemorrhagic Shock Part 1 and 2.
Yes, I haven't watched those two yet. Those are the two I need to get around to.
Hemorrhagic Shock Parts 1 and 2 sounds like it could be the title to a lot of episodes of anime, like in a lot of shonen shows. I could see them doing an episode of like Dragon Ball Super called Hemorrhagic Shock after Goku goes, Ultra Instinct, and it like wrecks his body.
Yes, and his brain explodes. But no, the thing with going back to Cells at Work, the thing about it that I think is really remarkable is it's the most effective educational, like, entertainment show I think I've seen, and that it is 100% an educational show. Like, don't go into this thinking it's going to be, like an Osmosis Jones thing where it's like, technically, like, it's like, oh, this guy is a white blood cell, because I think Osmosis Jones is supposed to be a white blood cell, and he's like a cop, and it's like, okay, that's very vaguely analogous to the role of a white blood cell. It's not that stuff. It's not just using it as a backdrop. It's like, all the different characters are different kinds of cells that exist. It's mostly focused on like immunoresponse cells. So you have like all these different kinds, because it's not just like here's a white blood cell. Here's like the 7 different kinds of white blood cells there are, and here's an episode about how they're generated in like bone marrow, and then eventually are separated out into the different classes that they're in. There's a whole episode that is about how a naive killer T cell becomes a true killer T cell, and all that kind of stuff. And probably the best and most interesting episode has actually been the like middle bit where there's kind of like a soft 2-parter that deals with cancerous cells that are in the body, and it's a really fascinating look at like the microbiology perspective of it. It's like, because it's not, when you say cancerous cells, it's not like this like body has a malignant tumor. It's like normal cancerous cells that most bodies produce and the body deals with in a relatively short order. But it kind of, the perspective that the show brings by always focusing on this really like tight, small scale like reality of what the body does, I have these constant moments a couple of times in each episode where it makes me legitimately think about how remarkable it is that all the shit that's going on in this episode, like regardless of like, obviously it's not like the cute anime versions of all these things, but these things are happening, and there are white blood cells in your bodies killing like random bacteria and germs, and there are red blood cells constantly going all over the place doing what they're doing, and platelets covering up wounds, and your body is working in this really remarkable way that when you translate it relatively faithfully to this like strange anthropomorphized setting, a lot of the concepts translate into narrative concepts really easily. And it's really cool. So I suggest people check that show out. I've been enjoying it a lot. And then the other thing I've been doing while I've been watching it is there is a YouTube channel, I think, called Dr. Hope, or like Dr. Hope's Sick Blog or something like that. It's a doctor who he does a lot of other content on YouTube, but he's up to now, I think, episode 5, been doing like sort of like watch throughs of episodes and stopping periodically and addressing like where is this, like how scientifically accurate is this stuff, and it usually is pretty fucking scientifically accurate, and like he'll sort of add little sciencey stuff on top of it. So if you're someone who is like wants to kind of brush up on and like refamiliarize yourself with those sorts of like scientific things and with microbiology and with the body, it's a really cool show. And it was just like a nice, like, oh, cool, I forgot about half this stuff, and now I feel smarter having watched this show. And there's a really cute platelet girl that is one of the main characters that is very cute and cool.
That sounds great, but now, Sean, all I can think about is the episode of my idea for Cells at Work, where it's Take Your Child to Work Day, and so Cell brings the Cell Juniors, and they murder all of his coworkers.
Yeah, they grow their weird fucking fingernails and start jabbing people in the necks and shit, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Cell, Sean, I finished Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, right. Yes, you were on the cusp the last time we talked, I believe.
Yeah, I finished it, Sean, on Tuesday night, I believe, because we last recorded Sunday night. Monday, I was very busy and had no time for Dragon Ball, which was sad. And then Tuesday, I got home and I was kind of trying to work on one of these papers, but with writing, sometimes it just doesn't come. Yeah. And it wasn't coming, and so I said, you know what? I'm going to finish Dragon Ball Super tonight. I have 9 episodes, but fuck it. I'm going to go stay up until, 12:30 a.m., and I'm going to finish Dragon Ball Super because I'm not going to be able to focus on my writing while I have this awesome fucking thing floating around in my head. So I went and I just sat down, and first I made a pizza, and that was nice, and I had my pizza and watched 9 straight episodes of Dragon Ball, which I don't think I've ever done. I know in the Future Trunks arc I did 9 episodes in a day, but it was not in a single sit-down marathon. It was like spread out morning, afternoon, evening, and oh man, maybe back in the day with one of the old box sets, but 9 is a lot. That's more than like you would fit on one disc of anime.
Yeah.
And it was the easiest marathon ever because those last 9 episodes just fly the fuck by. It was basically the entire Universe 7 versus Universe 11 part of the tournament. It's amazing. The work they do with the characters in those final episodes is outstanding. The animation is mind-blowingly good. The use of music is mind-blowingly good. I think every character gets huge moments to shine. I love what they do with Gohan. I love what they do with Frieza. I especially love what they do with Android 17, who to me kind of walks away as the MVP of the entire tournament. Both in a literal sense, I think he is like the best utility player of the tournament, but also I think he is the character most, I don't want to say rehabilitated, because it's not like any of these characters were bad before, but 17 like had not been on the show since his part in Dragon Ball Z, and then that weird arc in Dragon Ball GT that no one remembers. And they really made him into a character again in a way that kind of blew my mind how effective I found him as a dramatic player in this universe, and his role in the tournament is extremely surprising at various points.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Goku and Vegeta. I mean, there's an episode with Vegeta that is so just heart-wrenchingly perfect. I think they have their finger on the pulse of that character as perfectly as the Dragon Ball franchise ever has. There is a moment with Vegeta that also plays as a pretty self-conscious tribute to Hiromi Tsuru, the voice of Bulma, who had passed away at the time of airing a couple weeks ago, and that's beautiful. And then all the stuff with Goku and Jiren, amazing, wonderful. Jiren is not the deepest character in the world, but I think they give him just enough characterization to sell it. And yeah, it's great. They stick the ever-living hell out of the landing on that series, and it's kind of amazing because I loved Dragon Ball Super up to that point. I think the Future Trunks arc was great. The Future Trunks arc did not stick the landing. It fumbles the landing pretty hard. The last episode of that arc is pretty bad. The Universe 6 versus Universe 7 arc is really good. It doesn't have like a great or bad ending, just kind of a very good fitting one. But, you know, it's very rare that... I think there are plenty of Dragon Ball arcs that stick the landing in really interesting ways, but a lot of them also, you know, there's ones like the Frieza arc or the Boo arc where the very end of it is not the most memorable part. It kind of like goes until it stops, you know? Whereas there are things like the Cell arc and I think... the original Piccolo arc and the Piccolo Jr. arc that very much stick the landing. This feels like one of those where it's just like the best is kind of at the end. They stick the landing so hard, and I just want more Dragon Ball now, but it's over. Luckily, we have a movie coming soon. So yeah, I loved it so much, I even texted you about it, Sean. And we don't text much throughout the week because we talk to each other for like 4 hours every Sunday night. So we don't really need to. But I had to tell you that I finished the show because it was so exciting.
It's just so good, and those last 5 minutes or so of the fight with Jiren, is just like it's because you talk about like the animation is mind blowing. I keep on thinking back to like there's like a specific sequence of shots with Goku like going down a tower with another character that he's teaming up with to beat Jiren. That's just like unfucking believable how good it looks,
movie
especially
quality.
for a like it would be impressive in a movie. The fact that it's in a weekly TV show is pretty mind blowing to me.
Yeah, again, the progression of animation on Dragon Ball Super is in the arcs where they're recreating the movies. It's oh my god, this is terrible. How did they let this out the door? Then you get in like the Universe 6 versus 7 arc, and you're like, this is good, this is competent, you know? This is oftentimes very impressive. You get to the Future Trunks arc, and you're like, this is really good by Dragon Ball standards. Like, this is consistent and well done and imaginative and all that. And then you get into the Universe Survival arc, and it's like, this is good by anime standards. Like, this is not just good, this is like, weekly TV animation doesn't look this good. What did they do? It's suspicious, you know? It's amazing. Yeah. So... it's a hell of a thing. We're going to do a podcast talking about all of it because we need to get it all off our chests. We need to talk about Dragon Ball Super. It's so good. I've been wanting to... Now, Sean, I'm feeling a little bit of what you've been feeling for the last year, which is that I really want to talk about Dragon Ball Super. I don't know people in my daily life other than you and my brother who have also seen it. So, like... you know, I was at school this week, and I'm, you know, talking to my friends, and be like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, oh, I watched a bunch of Dragon Ball. And they're like, Dragon Ball's still on? And I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea. And I really can't explain it to you because I would sound like a lunatic if I did.
That's the way it is. We will do a Dragon Ball Super episode in the near future.
Oh, yeah. All right. Sean, you want to do some news?
What's going on in the news, Jonathan?
Well, first, we got a trailer for the new Avengers movie, which means we also got a title for the new Avengers movie. They did not do something annoying and try to give us a trailer without giving us a title. That would have been weird. And it is titled Avengers Endgame, which was a little bit of a letdown for me because I think that's the first title I ever saw bandied about, like as a prediction for this movie. Mm-hmm. So it was like, oh, I thought it was going to be like a surprise. Like they were going to call it, you know, Avengers 4 Electric Boogaloo or something. But that's not what they did. It's Avengers Endgame. And the trailer is basically, it's 2 minutes. The first minute is Tony Stark on a spaceship, very sad, leaving a final message because he's going to die in the blackness of space. And the second minute is everyone back on Earth, very sad because all their friends are dead, and they're trying to figure out what to do, which will probably involve going and dying in the blackness of space. It's pretty bleak stuff. It was also very good.
Yeah, it's the perfect trailer for the first trailer for a movie like this, that it sort of reminds you of... right, because like I hadn't thought about in a while the position that Tony Stark is in at the end of the last movie to be like, oh shit, that's right, he's way out in the middle of fucking nowhere in outer space, and he's not Doctor Strange, he's not Thor. Like Tony Stark's a smart guy, but he can't just travel the fucking universe on a whim, you know. So like it was nice of being reminded of sort of the stakes and the position the characters are in, and then it just like teases the fuck out of everything. You get little glimpses of where each of the characters are at. There's such a good money shot of Hawkeye, who's now I guess going to be Ronin with the fucking sword, and he looks like he's getting like super badassed up, which he was already pretty cool, but now he seems super fucking cool. Yeah, I think it's a great trailer.
It's great. I like that they leaned into what looks like a different scope and scale for this movie. Like, we had I remember I was talking to a listener on Twitter who said it looks like maybe they've done the kind of thing where part 1 was the big action spectacle, and this one is maybe smaller and more intimate. And I really hope that's the case. It seems like it's what this trailer is pitching us on, which is, like, that trailer has fewer characters in it than any Avengers movie since the first, and even then, I feel like the first movie had more showcase characters in at least, like, the first trailer, you know? So it feels much more smaller, more intimate, like, there's probably going to be some big fights and set pieces, but they just literally cannot be on the scale they were in the last movie because a lot of those people are gone into dust now, you know? And so I find that very interesting. I think it looks like they're really leaning into the emotional, you know, end game aspect of it, which is what this, like, I like that is just there in the title. Like, this is the end. We're going to make more Marvel movies, but this is the end of what we've been doing up till now. And it really feels like that. And very, very confident piece of marketing from them.
Yeah, it's such a strong foot forward to, like, you know, just coming off of the back of Avengers Infinity War, like the hype behind Marvel is so high that I don't think they could have really taken a misstep, but they are like they're playing all the right notes with that trailer, and they don't give anything away, you know. Like, if you've been watching all the Marvel movies up to this point, nothing is revealed in that trailer that is like shocking or like something that you wouldn't want to see in the movie, which I appreciate. It's all stuff that's like, oh right, this is all stuff I basically know. Even the sort of kicker at the end with Ant-Man showing up is, if you watch the last Ant-Man movie, you know that's where the direction they were already heading in. So they're not spoiling any surprises. They're just like teeing up the ball for you to be like, okay, yeah, this is where we're going with the movie.
Yeah, and I almost want them to just like leave it at this. This would be the perfect trailer. Just don't make another one.
Yeah.
Obviously they're going to, although it's not that long till the movie comes out. It's 4 months. It comes out in April. So if they do another one, it's only going to be one more, you know, in that amount of time. I'm very curious to see how they market it, especially because in March, I think, is when we get Captain Marvel. So I assume they're going to be marketing that one more heavily because Avengers, people are going to see either way. Captain Marvel, they've got to sell. We did get another trailer for Captain Marvel this week as well. It's fine. I didn't find it as memorable. I'm interested in that movie. It seems like that movie, they're having trouble pitching the story in a 2-minute trailer. There's nothing wrong with that. It just feels like, how much are we going to get into the Kree? Oh, we only have 2 minutes. Let's just kind of hint around it, you know?
Yeah, because they basically have this job of like having to explain both what the Kree are and what the Skrull are. So you have like these two big, complicated alien races that have been in Marvel comics for like fucking 40 years or something at this point. And yeah, it's like 2 trailers are not enough to do it, and it's mostly just like, hey, this Captain Marvel seems pretty fucking cool. It just seems pretty fucking cool.
She does. I'm excited to see Brie Larson in Avengers as well. So yeah, and then apparently we are also going to be getting here fairly soon a trailer for the new Spider-Man movie, which is going to be kind of hilarious that that's going to be out and just not acknowledging that Spider-Man is currently dead in the continuity, but we all know he's not going to stay dead. But who knows? Maybe this is in a pocket universe and it's all different.
Maybe it's called Spider-Man Far From Home because where he is that's far from home is hell. Maybe that's just... We're just going like really weirdly metaphysical with this new Spider-Man movie.
Maybe Spider-Man doesn't come back, Sean, and what this movie is like a fever dream as he's dying. Like, it starts with him going, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, and then it like zooms into his head and does the movie, and then at the end it zooms back out and he fades away, and that's it.
That would be terrible and amazing.
Okay. Speaking of which, Sean, this is not news, but we get a new Spider-Man movie in like 5 days.
It's true, yeah.
Into the
I keep on forgetting that we're right on the eve of Into the Spider-Verse.
Which I believe has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics groups are starting to do their awards, and left and right critics are giving that movie their Animated Film of the Year award, because it seems like, one, critics love it, but they also really would love it to like compete for the Oscar, which the animated feature Oscar almost 100% of the time goes to Disney or Pixar. That's not facetious. Like, it literally almost never goes to anyone else. So, like, it would be huge if Spider-Man even got in, but let alone winning that one. But, like, clearly there is a movement for it, and it hasn't even come out yet. It looks pretty special. Yeah,
I think part of it is also just a sense of, like, oh my god, you can do a different aesthetic with 3D animation, and it's like, it looks like it's pretty fucking good, and you don't just have to do the Disney Pixar look, which is fine for what they do. It's just like, it's a boundless art form that is only constrained by your imagination. Maybe let's go outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, maybe all the people don't have to look like plastic toys because the first CGI movie was Toy Story. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on, Sean. Other piece of news this week was the Game Awards happened. The Game Awards, I don't know how to feel about them. You don't know how to feel about them. They're a weird marketing show, but it does mean that news happens there every year. So, you want to go over some of the news, Sean?
Yes. I will say this year I did not watch any of the Game Awards directly. I only watched the trailers afterwards, which I think is a slight improvement over last year. I think I watched 3 minutes of the Game Awards, which was the very end. So
okay.
I feel better about, why.
Yeah. I didn't watch any of it, so... Yeah, but I did follow up on the news because there was some exciting stuff. So let's start here, Sean. Nintendo sort of bookended the show because the first big announcement was that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 Black Order is coming out in 2019, 10 years after the last game in the series. It is developed by Team Ninja, the developers of the Musou games, and will be published by Nintendo as a Switch exclusive. It looks pretty cool. Team Ninja makes pretty good games. Nintendo is cool. This is a crazy announcement.
Yeah, everything about this announcement kind of confuses me. Not in the way that I think the game's going to be bad. I think the trailer looked fine for what it was, but it's just because it was, especially when I first saw Marvel Ultimate Alliance Switch, I totally blocked out the 3. And so I think it was literally the day after the Game Awards when I was on the internet again and saw someone talking about a new Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. I was like, I know. I thought they were just putting those remasters they made last year on the Switch. It's oh no, they're making a new Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, and it's developed by Team Ninja. Okay, and it's only on the Switch. Weird. I don't know why any of those things are happening. I really love the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. It's a great early Xbox 360 co-op game for people who have not played it. It has been maybe actually worth going back to, although what I've heard from those remasters is that those are not good. So if you have an old Xbox 360 and you could probably find a copy of that game super cheap, and it's a pretty good little party game. But yeah, I hope that this new one is good.
It seems like a good fit, because I've played some of that one with you at your house at some point, and it is a great little party game. This seems like a good developer for it. They've been working with Nintendo a lot lately on Fire Emblem Warriors and Hyrule Warriors and things like that. Marvel seems like a good candidate for that. Nintendo is obviously a platform that fosters a lot of multiplayer stuff, especially the kind of couch multiplayer co-op that this series takes really well to. Nintendo getting an exclusive Marvel game is kind of crazy to me. It's a really interesting big get for them. And it'll be interesting to see where this goes from here. This feels like one of the bigger, third-party gets for Nintendo in a while. Not that this game is going to be, the biggest set-the-world-on-fire thing ever, but, it's different than the kind of third-party things they tend to get. And it is a genuine exclusive, so that's interesting to me.
Yeah, Nintendo just almost never gets third-party exclusives, and if they do, it's, mostly a consequence of, the Japanese side of things, because Japan's just not interested in putting anything out on the Xbox. And if it's good, so it's if it's only on the Switch, that's fine. Maybe it'll also be on the PlayStation. But this is it is technically a Japanese developed game because it's Team Ninja, but it is a Western game in theme and style and aesthetic and property. And so that's one of the things that just makes it it's. I keep on forgetting that it's a Switch exclusive because it's hard to wrap my head around how that sequence of events has come to be.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's good. So let's go ahead and move on. Actually, one other thing on that, Sean. There were rumors before the show that Joe and Anthony Russo were going to be there, and I think they were, and they trolled the whole audience. These are the directors of the Avengers movies, and the rumor was that they were either going to show the Avengers Endgame trailer, which was half right. It came out the next morning, or they were going to show off something of the Crystal Dynamics game.
Yeah,
is that Crystal Dynamics game happening? Is it just completely dead?
It is weird. It is because it wasn't at E3, even though they had Square Enix had their whole fucking weird 40-minute trailer thing they showed, and they had the fucking Quiet Man, but they didn't show their goddamn Avengers game. And the only thing we've seen is a teaser trailer from a year ago or something. That's
further
really
than
brief.
that. It's been a while.
It's only cinematic. So yeah, it's confusing. I thought... there was such a giant boatload of rumors of things that were going to show that either didn't show or were told there was a whole rumor about the Rocksteady game that's the Rocksteady game is going to be there, and then Rocksteady was no it isn't, and then it was oh okay, and it was just a weird the internet is a weird place where people just say something and then it just propagates in some way that then people say, like, oh, hey, did you hear? They're going to show the Avengers game and the Russo brothers are going to be there. It's like, maybe the Russo brothers were just there because they like video games. They were in town or something, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it would have stood to reason. You know, it's not the most outlandish rumor in the world that the Russo brothers would be there on the eve of the release of the Avengers trailer to show off a major video game, but it didn't happen. I don't know what's going on with that game. But let's go ahead and move on and talk about things that were actually shown there. This got leaked kind of hilariously. Far Cry New Dawn. This is the new Far Cry game. It is basically the Far Cry 5.5, and it is set in the nuclear apocalypse ending of Far Cry 5, if I'm correct about that.
Yes, which I believe I described on this podcast in spoiler detail. This reminded me that Far Cry 5 is a game that came out this year. I played that game 7, 8 months ago. Like it was not that long ago that I played that game. That game feels like a fucking lifetime ago.
How high is it on your top 10 list?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. I don't mean to spoil things for people, but I have been. I the other day compiled a list of like, oh, here's all the games I played this year. Because I think one of the reasons why I did that is because I saw the trailer. It was like, oh, right, fucking Far Cry 5 came out this year. I should just like put this list together, not to like make the top 10 list, but just to see what was there. Far Cry 5 is definitely not on that list.
Okay. So is this the new thing they're doing with Far Cry games? Because after Far Cry 4, they did Primal, which was a reskin of the map. And then this is a reskin of the Far Cry 5 map, if I'm not mistaken. And so I guess this is their new strategy. Instead of doing like significant DLC, they're doing like just a second major $60 game reusing the assets.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think of it, it sort of started in a soft way with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which while it was not a full new game, it was a significant retooling of that game using the existing assets, but it was like a $20 DLC expansion, something like that. But yes, then this does seem to be their ploy now to make Far Cry like a sort of like, I guess it's an annual franchise.
It's been annual for a while now, Sean.
Yeah, it's like, I want to say pseudo-annual because of like the weird staggered setup of it, but it is technically just annual. Oh yeah, Far Cry 4, then Far Cry Primal, which like seems a lot more different than these two are going to be, just because, you know, I feel like going from modern times back to caveman times is a lot different than going from modern times to like 2 years from now when we're in the nuclear apocalypse. Like there's just a big difference there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like this is this weird setup of we'll like take the stuff that we have, retool it. It seems like this one is going to be retooled to a lesser degree than the last one, but use that to fuel yearly releases. I question that strategy mostly because I know Far Cry 5 did sell very well, partially because it was like the only major third-party game that came out like at that point of the year. So it was like if you wanted to buy a game, it was kind of the only thing out there for most platforms. So I know it sold really well, but I don't think anybody really gives a shit about that game. I don't give a shit about that game. Like, I don't want to play a game that is set in the world of that game. I don't want a game that touches on the story of that game. I don't want the weird villain dude, cult leader guy who was teased at the end of the trailer. I don't want to see him again. I don't want to be reminded that that guy exists. The only thing I want ever to do with Far Cry 5 again is the really good music that plays during the pause screen. Like, that's my sweet spot for Far Cry 5. Other than that, like, let's move on and try to make a good Far Cry game next time.
Do you think this game will have incisive social commentary, Sean?
No. I don't think it has.
Okay.
I think there was a chance when the setup of Far Cry 5, like a year before that game came out, was like there was an opportunity to do something with a Far Cry game set in America, and they didn't do anything with that opportunity, and so fuck them.
All right. Supergiant came with their new video game. Supergiant are the developers, of course, of Bastion, Pyre, other games like that. They announced their new game, Hades. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler. It's in early access now on the Epic Games Store, which we didn't talk about. Epic Games launched their like Steam competitor last week, and that's kind of interesting. But yeah, that was like the announcement of the night that was, here's our new game, and it's out now. And people like Supergiant's games, so people were very excited about this.
Yeah, it was a good trailer. Like, I'm not a big Supergiant Games fan. Like, I tried Bastion and wasn't super into it, but they've got a great style. You know, it's like they have a very distinctive look, and they have a really distinctive sort of approach to music, and both of those things are cool. So
I'm glad other people are into it, and I'm glad they're successful in like putting out their own brand of stuff, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would call them an indie developer, but, like, you know, they're a small team, and
they're big indie.
Yeah, they clearly do good work, and they work consistently, and that's nice.
Yes.
That is a healthy part of the industry. Let's see. Anthem got another trailer. BioWare said there will be no branching narratives like there were in other games. And, you know, BioWare really at this point should just say, yes, this is our Fallout 76. We're sorry. That clearly didn't go so well. We are all shitting our pants over at BioWare because that's probably exactly what's going to happen to us with Anthem, maybe with fewer glitches. And that's why we're going to show you this Dragon Age trailer later today. Bye.
Yeah, that Anthem trailer was so nothing. Like, it's just, it was one of those where if they had showed that trailer at E3, which, I mean, the E3 trailer they did show was kind of similar. It would have been one of those things where during my E3 notes, while I was watching it, my entire E3 notes would have just been a criticism of how terrible a trailer it is, regardless of the game. Who knows if Anthem is going to be a good game or not? It seems like it has the potential. BioWare has made very good games in the past. But that fucking trailer is just utterly nothing. And it tells no story. It doesn't set up anything, like, enticing. It doesn't give you any insight into the game part of the game. It just accomplishes effectively no goal. Like, there's no reason for that trailer to exist. It doesn't do the thing that the Avengers trailer does of, like, teeing up your expectations for something because, you know, the Avengers trailer could lean on something it already had. It doesn't even do the fucking thing that the Dragon Age trailer did, which I've played 2 of the Dragon Age games, 2 of the 3 existing Dragon Age games, and I didn't know anything of what that trailer was alluding to, but at least it was ominous in a way that was like, ominous things are kind of cool. It's just like nothing.
Yeah, it baffles me. Anthem feels like, so far, and again, I don't know what the actual game will be, but so far, it feels like the most obvious case of the Emperor has no clothes I've ever seen in video game marketing, where, okay, the most obvious case was Mass Effect Andromeda, but after that, because it's like, it's constantly like, we're going to have a big game, and it's going to do all these things. No, we can't show you any of that. No, just look, pretty visuals, boom, boom, boom. And no gameplay. No, you don't get to see that. No. And it's like, do you have a game? I don't know. With Mass Effect Andromeda, we were asking that until the day the game came out. Do you actually have a game? The game came out and the answer was, kinda. We didn't finish it. We definitely didn't finish it. But we have something that looks like a game? Doesn't really play like one, but we have something that looks like a game. I don't know is Anthem just going to be the same thing? Because in most circumstances, Sean, you and I would say it's going to get delayed. There's no way it comes out in February. Now I'm going to say there's no way it doesn't come out, but is there any way it is okay? Because, like, clearly EA is going to put that thing out come hell or high water, and it's just, is it going to be in fighting shape? I have no idea. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I think it will sit alongside, like, Destiny, Sea of Thieves, Fallout 76, like this whole lineage of games we have this generation that, like, have really interesting premises, have elements of them that are generally, like, really remarkable, but are just half-baked and feel like, or like No Man's Sky is actually probably the biggest example of this generation, now that I think about it. And in our kinds of games, it feels like we have this weird marker for early access that is effectively meaningless nowadays, other than to say, don't have expectations about this thing. That's all that early access means, I think, in a significant way. And it kind of feels like this weird spot where it's like, oh, there's a lot of things that are really cool, and it's just drawing building blocks for a big game, but it just releases in this kind of unfinished state, and then maybe like a year later, with an expansion pack and a bunch of patches and all this other stuff, it shapes into something really good. But you can only play that trick like once or twice. And for us, that one trick was Destiny 1. And I think it's incredibly difficult to get people to come back going in. Even if it's not the same franchise, if it's the same kind of thing. When I see another game released in a way that reminds me of how Destiny 1 released, I'm just like, I can't do that with another game. I was fine with it for Destiny 1 because it was the first time I ever did it. But I'm not going to go through it with another game because there's no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the death of Western gaming. Like, I don't want to be over... I mean, this is a topic for another day. It's a big topic. I think it's the most troubling trend this generation because, like we have not talked about it on the show, and it's not getting a ton of coverage because I don't think the game is selling well. But Fallout 76 is worth talking about because Bethesda released an early access game. Full on, It is... And they didn't call it that, but it's like an alpha for a game that one day with lots and lots and lots of work could be something halfway interesting, but as it is now, it's kind of a broken piece of shit. And it's amazing to me that happened out of Bethesda, of all people. Like, they release games that are technically problematic, but not to the degree that this is. And a game like this has to be less technically problematic to work because it's an online, like, massively multiplayer experience. Like, what's weird is that Destiny, by far, is the most polished of all of these things.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And was when it came out. You know, because it had like a gameplay core that I think a lot of these other ones don't have. Like No Man's Sky had to invent the gameplay a year later, like stuff like that, you know? It's weird to me. I don't know if Anthem will fall in that bucket, but I have to say, like, if they wanted us to think anything else about it, they're doing a bad job because I have no enthusiasm for this thing. And, you know, just a couple months ago, we talked about how the Mass Effect trilogy is my 6th favorite game of all time. Like, you know, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. It's just the kind of thing where if you're releasing a trailer for a game that is like a story trailer trying to sell people on the story, the trailer itself has to tell some kind of story. The trailer itself has to be clear about what it's communicating, and the trailer has to go through some kind of arc. Like, again, look at that Avengers trailer. It starts with hopelessness, and it ends with a shred of hope. And that's what makes that trailer exciting. It tells a little story in 2 minutes with footage cobbled together from like the first 30 minutes of that movie or whatever. That's the kind of thing you have to do. You can't just have a bunch of action shots and the villain monologuing over it meaninglessly, especially when we have no context. I don't know what this world is. I don't know who this villain is. I don't know what the stakes are. I don't know anything about this setting because it's brand new. You can't just do a trailer that feels like it's a fucking TV spot that released a month after a movie released. Like, that's the kind of trailer they showed, and you just can't do that. And it blows my mind that they have not shown one proper good trailer for this game. They've had a couple of decent gameplay demos at E3, but no good trailers.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. That was Anthem. Let's see. We'll go through a couple of these kind of quickly. Crash Team Racing is getting an HD remake coming out June 21st. It's called Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled and is a remake of Naughty Dog's 1999. I did not know this, but kind of a classic. I had not really known that was a thing, but people really love that game.
Yeah, I'm not a big kart racer kind of guy, but yes, I know several people who swear by Crash Team Racing. Yeah. So that's good for those people. Yeah. It's good to have competition in that space, even if that competition is old competition resurrected from like 20 years ago. Yes. It's some competition.
And it continues Naughty Dog. So this will be on all the platforms, but this does mean that now that all the Jak and Daxter games are out and all the Crash Bandicoot games are out, and then you have all the remasters, I think you can play pretty much Naughty Dog's entire catalog in one way or another on the PlayStation 4, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's what you get when you're a company that, you know, makes your parent company very, very rich.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's see. Obsidian came with their new game. It's called The Outer Worlds. This will be a first-person shooter with RPG. I'm reading from the Kotaku article, by the way, that compiled all of this news. So that I don't accidentally plagiarize. But will be a first-person shooter with RPG touches that they say looks like Fallout New Vegas in space, set to release in 2019. I assume this will be their first exclusive with Microsoft.
I feel like it came out that this is technically not a Microsoft thing because the game was so deep in development. I think Take-Two is publishing it. I might be wrong about those details.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's not a Microsoft exclusive.
Okay, interesting. Well, it does look cool. I mean, people love Fallout New Vegas. We had heard for a while that Obsidian wanted to do something like that, but without the license. I mean, God, at this point, Fallout New Vegas feels like it's the most beloved Fallout game, the way it gets talked about. Just in the general like, as someone who doesn't play those games, that's just my impression from the outside. I have no idea if that's accurate or not, but it does sound cool. So yeah, I was a little confused about that for the reasons you were saying of like, but they just got bought. What does this mean? It sounds like it's a little complicated.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the most excited I've been for an Obsidian game since Fallout New Vegas. Like, they haven't done a lot of stuff recently that has interested me because they've been mostly in that like Paths of Eternity kind of CRPG space, but.
Which looks cool. It's just not our kind of thing.
Yeah, I just don't have the time to play a huge fucking CRPG on top of playing Dragon Quest XI and all that kind of stuff.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on. Hello Games, the creators of No Man's Sky, are making a game called The Last Campfire, which they are calling a Hello Games short because it is a shorter game. It will be an adventure full of lost folk, strange creatures, and mysterious ruins. So, yeah, that's nice to see that Hello Games has something new coming out.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to have that. Let's see what else. For best esports player, Sonic Fox won, and he went up in his furry outfit, and it was really cool, and he had a great speech. And, I do love the quote they have here. He said, "I'm gay, black, a furry, pretty much everything a Republican hates, and the best esports player of the year, I guess." I want this dude to run for president in the fucking Fox costume.
Yeah, Sonic Fox is the guy who won Dragon Ball FighterZ at EVO this year, and it was pretty fucking cool. So
yeah.
He's very cool.
That got pushed in my YouTube recommends after this because I was watching Game Awards videos and I was watching Dragon Ball videos. So they're like, "Hey, why don't we put those two together for you, Jonathan?" And I was like, "This dude's really good at Dragon Ball Fighters."
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because because Dragon Ball Fighters, I don't know if this is true for you, Jonathan, but this is the first time I've ever played enough of a fighting game that then when I see a pro play that game, I can kind of understand.
I know what buttons they're hitting.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing of in a Dragon Ball where it's like, oh, my power level is now high enough that I can actually sense your power level. Not to say that I could compete. I just understand now how woefully inadequate I am compared to the most meager player on this esports stage. And that's a good and bad feeling to have at the same time.
Yeah, my roommate here in Iowa, he watches a lot of esports stuff, like League of Legends and things like that. And so I hear sometimes, from upstairs, he's watching and they've got the commentary on. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. It's like if you're watching a real-life sport you don't know the rules for, like soccer or something.
Or cricket.
Yeah, and that's what it usually is for video games. But this Dragon Ball FighterZ clip that got recommended, they were doing the commentary. I'm like, oh, he's using this and this and this. I'm like, I know all that. I couldn't do all that, but I know all that.
Yeah.
I finally know what it's like to watch a sport.
Congratulations.
Real or E. No, all right. So let's go ahead and move on. So, and good for you, Sonic Fox. But PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is getting a winter map, so they talked about that. Studio Wildcard announces Atlas. This is not to be confused with the announcement from Atlas later in the show, but this is the developer of Ark Survival Evolved, and this is their new game, Atlas. It's an MMO survival game with pirates and dragons, and it says the map is 12,000 times the size of an Ark server. Comes to Xbox next year. We'll see about that.
Yeah, I remember watching that trailer and feeling like it looked like Sea of Thieves, but a video game.
That should be on the box. It's like Sea of Thieves, but a video game.
Yeah.
And then this was another of those announcements where they just put a game out that night, and that is Ashen, which is a game we've been hearing about for years from Microsoft, launched for Xbox and PC. And I'll be honest, Sean, I have forgotten what this game is.
It's a Dark Souls-y looking thing.
Okay, are people interested in it?
It seems actually pretty cool.
Okay.
The only person in video game journalism I know that's playing it is Austin Walker at Waypoint. He's been tweeting about it, but he seems to like it.
Okay.
So it's probably pretty good.
Yes. BioWare then came with their teaser for Dragon Age 4. Just a general teaser for this, very much in the vein, clearly, of the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement from this year at E3 that Bethesda did, where it's like, guys, this game is really far off. You're not going to see this generation, or maybe next, but we are making Dragon Age 4, and here's a little teaser for it. And it was well done. It was well produced. Had a little kind of looked like a tapestry kind of thing going on. I think there was a image of Solos in there, who's a character from the games, and it had a hashtag at the end, which was like the Dread Dragon.
Wolf.
What was it?
The Dread Wolf.
The Dread Wolf.
The Dread Wolf does something.
Yeah, I think it was the Dread Wolf Rises, which sounds like the Dark Knight Rises, and I really want them to call it Dragon Age the Dread Wolf Rises, because that's funny. But because it was Dread, all I could think is it was something about the Dread Pirate Roberts, but that's not what it is. That would be more entertaining, but it's not. It's the Dread Wolf.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I do think that Dragon Age announcement is very clearly some sort of damage control by BioWare of getting ahead of even if Anthem is a good game, it's going to piss off so many BioWare people because it's not going to be a BioWare style RPG. So I feel like they're just look, guys, we saw what happened to Blizzard a month ago. We are fucking making Dragon Age 4. For the love of God, don't just murder us in the streets.
Yeah, here's the thing though, Sean. Genuine question. If Anthem does not do well, if it flops as it very well could, does Dragon Age 4 ever happen? Because we know the people at BioWare are afraid that like this is kind of the last stop on the express. Like if this does not go well with Anthem, EA is very trigger happy, and that could kind of be it for them. So I would not like with Bethesda can weather Fallout 76. I'm not too worried about that. This is one where like genuinely I don't know what the future of this studio is.
Yeah, I think there is a very good chance that if Anthem if it truly flops, there's a very good chance that that's it for BioWare, which would be really fucking sad.
It would. All right, there's going to be a new Stranger Things video game because that whole thing with Telltale didn't work out, so they're making a 16-bit co-op game.
It's like an isometric pixel beat-em-up, which is the last thing I think of when I think of fucking Stranger Things.
They should just, because Stranger Things loves 80s movies so much, they should make it like the E.T. video game for Atari and just have it be a Stranger Things skinned version of the E.T. game and really piss people off.
Fucking, that would make more sense to me than this like totally generic looking indie brawler.
Yes. All right. Mortal Kombat 11 comes out April 23rd, and it got a very bloody trailer. I did not realize there were already 10 Mortal Kombat games, so that was interesting.
Oh yeah, well it's confusing because the last one they called Mortal Kombat X, which is 10, but I think the official title was it's supposed to be pronounced Mortal Kombat X, not Mortal Kombat 10. So they obscured it.
So it's the inverse of the iPhone 10, where the iPhone 10 is supposed to be called the iPhone 10, even though it is the 9th version of the iPhone, and it is an X, and everyone calls it iPhone X, whereas Mortal Kombat X was the 10th Mortal Kombat, but you called it Mortal Kombat X.
Yes, it's something like that. I also think maybe they did something weird where they like count the DC Mortal Kombat game, the one before Injustice, in the Mortal Kombat numbering, because they stopped numbering it, I think, after 4, and then eventually it came back and it was 9 all of a sudden. Yeah, I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy, so I don't really give a shit. But it's like one of those series that I look at from afar. And I'm like, Mortal Kombat seems weird and dumb, and I don't quite get it. But it would feel wrong if there wasn't constantly a Mortal Kombat game coming out, because they have been coming out since before I was born.
Numbered fighting games are having a moment right now. We had Street Fighter V last year. We had Soul Calibur 6 this year. We're going to have the new Mortal Kombat next year. So everyone's here at the party.
It's just a lot of fighting games.
Yes.
But none of them are good as Dragon Ball.
Or as Smash Bros. Speaking of which, Smash Brothers, Sean, had an appearance, but it was a surprise, because the last video they showed at the Game Awards was a Persona 5 video. We were all wondering, what's going on in this Persona 5 video? It turns out the Phantom Thieves have gotten a letter, and the letter is an invitation to Smash Brothers, and Joker from Persona 5 is going to be the first DLC character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Holy shit. Everyone made the joke. You never saw this coming from the song Last Surprise. But genuinely, nobody on Earth predicted this. Nobody on Earth leaked this. It was genuinely one of the most surprising things I've ever seen announced for a video game. And it is also awesome. And I think it also completely reconfigures expectations for what the DLC is going to be for Smash Bros. Ultimate. Because I'll say this, Sean. If I thought the probability of Goku being in Smash Brothers was maybe like 5% before the Game Awards, that's a much higher percentage now that they have fucking Joker from Persona 5 in Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, because there are a lot of reasons for why this is surprising. The biggest for me is that I know that Persona Q2 is going to come out soon in Japan.
It's already out.
Oh, it's already out? Okay,
yeah.
So I guess for Japan, although this is an English language trailer, that there is, as far as I know, no Japanese language version of it, because I searched desperately on YouTube, and all I could find was a Nico version of the English version of the trailer, just with Japanese comments on it. So I still need the Japanese language version of the trailer that has all the Japanese voice actors, because that's how I played the game. But aside from Persona Q2, which is a weird spin-off game, this is a character that basically is not, at least in the West, on a Nintendo fucking platform.
No, right? He's not.
So it's just like, that's to me the most surprising. Like, it would be surprising no matter what, but it would make a lot of sense if it was an announcement of, and there's Persona 5 is coming to the Nintendo Switch, which is still a very high probability now. But if they announced that, and then as the teaser at the end of that was then this video of, and he's going to be in Smash Brothers, it would be surprising and make sense. It's incredibly surprising, and I still don't understand it. I don't even I feel like every day I've woken up since the Game Awards, which has been like a couple of days now. It's felt like, oh, did that happen? Did I dream that? No, okay, that totally happened, because that 100% seems like a dream I would have had.
I've had the same feeling, and it's extra for me because I'm playing Smash Bros. Every day and being like, in the back of my head, Jonathan, in a couple months, you're going to be able to play this game with Shoji Meguro music in it.
Right.
Holy crap, right? Because every one of these DLC characters is going to come with a stage. I assume the stage will be Persona 5 themed. Thomas's prediction, I know he told me, is that it's going to be the casino from the Casino Palace. That would make sense. But it could be a lot of different things. But either way, and if it's the casino, that means we're going to get the casino song in Smash Brothers. This is crazy, Sean. So let's do a quick recap. Like, what are the precedents for this in Smash Bros? Because it is somewhat unprecedented. Because the clearest analogs to me would be Solid Snake and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Now, Cloud has never been on a Nintendo platform in any form. But Final Fantasy, obviously, was a Nintendo series for a big chunk of its life, so that did not feel that weird, right?
Yeah, and Cloud is such a iconic character that's been around for, was around for over 10 years before he was in that game. Like, Joker is a brand new character from a game that came out 2 years ago in Japan, 1 year ago over here.
Yes, so it made sense. I don't think there was a lot of eyebrow raising over that. It was a surprise, and it was a nice surprise, but it was not like, well, this can't happen. Final Fantasy VII was on PlayStation. That was not a real thought. Yeah. Solid Snake, back in Brawl, Snake had been on a Nintendo platform once, which was the remake of Metal Gear Solid for GameCube.
Yeah,
but obviously Snake is not a Nintendo character. But again, it was like, it's Solid Snake, it's a major character, especially... I mean, you're thinking of, like, the Japanese and the international audience. It all makes sense. Hideo Kojima is friends with Masahiro Sakurai. That's why it happened. So, it was not that out there. This one feels out there because Persona just is not a Nintendo franchise. It's had 2 releases on Nintendo platforms, Persona Q and Persona Q2. And Persona Q does not have Joker in it. Persona Q2 will, but it is only out in Japan, and it's only been out for about a week right now. And, yeah, I mean... Persona 5 is coming to Switch, right? Like
it's got to be. The only thing that makes me feel like maybe it isn't is that they just didn't announce that, right? Because that feels like, am I crazy to think that that's the order of the announcements? Is here's the Persona 5 on Nintendo Switch, and then at the end of that's the little minute long oh my god, and something else. Oh my god, he's in Smash Brothers. That seems like the sane way to announce it.
It does to me too. The only other suggestion I saw is that they're going to have the Persona music event soon in Japan. I think it's in April. The big concert they do every year, and well, not every year, but when they do it, it's annual and. Maybe that's where it gets announced if they're doing it, which I guess would make sense. But then when does it come out, and why would he be in Smash Bros. Before it's on Switch? Because we're assuming this is probably an April release, which would make me think you would be doing Persona 5 Golden and have it be a Golden Week release, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would call it that, but something like that. So, yeah, it is confusing, but I also think it makes sense that it would come out on Switch. There's no reason the Switch couldn't run that game. Oh, yeah. We know they like to fiddle with their games and add stuff to it. And Persona on the Nintendo Switch would sell an unholy amount of copies in Japan. It would do well internationally. It would sell a truly just remarkable amount in Japan, I have to imagine. Yeah. Given how well Persona 4 did on the Vita, a system that did not sell well, put that thing on the fucking Nintendo Switch, a system that everyone in Japan seems to own, and yeah, you have a recipe for a success. So who knows? But Persona 5 on Switch was probably a coin flip to me before. It made sense, but there was no clear indication of it. Now it's it has to be coming. It has to, or is there something else? Is there a Persona 3 or 4 sort of port in the works that we don't know about? But then why would it be Joker? There's a lot of questions here, but again, I just come back to the fact that one, knowing how good Smash Bros. Ultimate is, they're going to do something real fucking cool with Joker, and I'm sure his B move is going to be using, Arsene, his fucking awesome persona, and who knows, maybe his final smash will be shooting you in the head with a gun like he does to God at the end of Persona 5.
I have to imagine the final smash is the all-out attack, right? That's got to be what it is, yeah.
Yes. Mega Man has something like that, where all the other Mega Man figures come in and they all help you beat up the opponent, so it feels like it would be something like that. But, again, we are going to have Shoji Meguro music in Smash Brothers on a Persona-themed stage with a Persona-themed character. This is very cool, Sean. Yes.
But this does not in any way dissuade me from my path of put fucking Goku in the game.
Do you agree with me that... Do you agree with me that this makes the probability of Goku being in the game dramatically higher now?
Yes, I think it is. It is more likely now than ever because, fucking if Joker can be in the game, then fucking Goku has been in like fucking 50 times more games on the Nintendo platforms than Joker has been, considering he's only in one, and it's one in Japan.
Well, and if this is the way they're going with the DLC, where they are going to be big characters from big franchises, and they're going to be event DLCs like this, Goku makes sense. Like, if you put Goku in the base game, that would be exciting, but he would be sharing the stage with, Ridley and King K. Rool and all the other people they added. Goku as DLC makes more sense to me, because they can do a lot with it. They probably give him a Tenkaichi Budokai stage and things like that. And, yeah, I mean, I think Dragon Ball FighterZ is Bandai Namco, right?
Yes.
Published by. I know it's Arc System Works made it. So yeah, Bandai Namco has the license to Dragon Ball. Nintendo plays very well with Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco co-developed Smash Brothers, so like clearly that's not a problem.
I mean, Pac-Man's in the game.
Yeah, it's really just a question of whether Toei is up for it. Toei is weird with rights and things like that, but what's the downside to putting Goku in the game? Just we're all having too much fun? Is that the downside?
Put Goku in the game. Do it.
Cowards. Put Goku in the game. All right, so let's go ahead and move on, Sean. That's all the news. Any other reactions to the Game Awards that we want to talk about, or should we move on?
I thought it was interesting that God of War won. I wasn't expecting that. God of War is a very good game.
Celeste should have won that award, but, half of this podcast has not played Celeste, Sean.
Sure. I own it, but Hitman 2 is out right now, and I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Okay, just
Hitman 2 is out right now.
Play Celeste before top 10 time. Just,
I feel like even if I play it, I'm not going to like it as much as people do, because I don't like platformers that much. And that's one of the reasons why I'm staying away from it right now, is just knowing like, fuck, I'm going to play this game, and then I'm not going to like it as much as people, and people are going to hate me.
I don't think anyone's going to hate you, Sean.
Everybody hates me already. It's just the way that life is.
All right, let's go ahead and move on and talk about some video games. Should we start with Smash Brothers, or should we build up to Smash Brothers?
Well, I have not played Smash Brothers, so I'll leave that up to you to decide.
All right, let's build up to Smash Brothers. We'll make the people wait for it. Sean, let's talk about. We'll go from here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in order of release date. So we're gonna go from the oldest game on my list to the newest. Oldest is Dragon Ball FighterZ. I don't have a ton to add to what I've said in the past about this, but I did get the DLC, and we should just take a couple of minutes to talk about the DLC fighters in the game, because they are genuinely amazing. The game feels now to me like, oh my god, the game was incomplete without these fighters, because they're so good. My three favorites have quickly become Base Goku, Base Vegeta, and Android 17, and part of that is just, I bought this right after I finished Dragon Ball Super. I was on a real Android 17 kick after that, so I've been playing a lot of Android 17, and he is amazing and a really interesting, different kind of fighter. Base Goku, as you said before, is just full of references. I love that a bunch of his moves are from the movies. Like, he does his normal light attack combo is the thing where he pushes both of his arms out, which is from Dragon Ball Z Movie 1, which I love. When his opening animation is he just flies in on the Kintoan with that big dopey grin on his face. That's amazing. The way the Kaioken works with him is awesome. And then Vegeta, I think to play as, from a sense of I want to win, he's not my favorite version of Vegeta. I really like just base Super Saiyan Vegeta, but he is really cool from the level of, this Vegeta is evil Vegeta from early in the series, and he's just doing evil Vegeta shit, and that's awesome. And they even have the original, Gallic Ho that he does, and that's really cool. But all of them are neat. I think they did a really good job with Broly. Broly is one I remember from the other Arc System Works games, like Supersonic Warriors 2 on the Nintendo DS, and Ultimate Butoden on 3DS. There's a bunch of Butodens. There's Super Butoden, there's New Butoden, there's all these different ones. They made Ultimate Butoden. They've always done a good job with Broly and just made him really heavy and big and overwhelming, and I think they had a lot of fun with him here in this one too. Bardock and Cooler I found less interesting than some of the others, but they're still really neat fighters. But yeah, all of them are neat, and it's a good package. I like that Zamasu is in it now, and you could have a team with Zamas and Goku Black. Even though it's technically, fused Zamas, you can just kind of ignore that and be like, it's Zamas and Goku Black, and they can be on a team together and beat up, Trunks if you want to do that, and it's fun. So yeah, is the DLC overpriced? Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. It's a ridiculous price point for all that DLC, but if you like Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's some good stuff.
Yeah, the characters are awesome. My love for Vegito Blue is
Right.
well and often expressed on this podcast. But he and Gohan and Android 17 are... I haven't played Dragon Ball FighterZ in a little bit, since about like the 17 DLC, but that's my team right now that I'm best with, and they're great. And yes, and the thing I like the most about the base Goku and base Vegeta in a weird way is, I don't know how much you've played around with their like normal ki attacks, but they have like the weirdest, most like idiosyncratic ki attacks.
Yeah.
Like Vegeta just like does like lob throws and shit, and I think the best, most obscure, specific fucking attack reference is, I think it's down ki attack with Goku, is he does the thing from the Frieza arc, where in the Frieza arc he does it underwater, but it's still the same thing where he fires 2 blasts up from underground as a distraction, where he then teleports up and does a drop kick down from like an angle. And it's such a specific move to pull, but it's so good, and it's such a just like... It feels like a kind of attack that should be a special attack that you need to do like a specific input to do, rather than just like his like fucking down X attack is this whole fire 2 ki blast and then teleport and do a kick. It's very cool. They really like went outside the box for a lot of those characters.
Yeah, I love it. Base Goku is my favorite version of Goku in the game. I really love him. And then, yeah, I'm still kind of figuring out what maybe my best team is, and now I'm derailed a little bit by Smash Brothers, which I have to say, when I went into Smash Brothers for the first time, Sean, on Thursday night, I had been playing so much Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'd kind of forgotten how to play Smash Bros. It didn't take me that long, but I was like trying to do like a quarter circle thing, and I'm like, nope, not what this game is. This game is... Like, Smash Bros. Is a fighting game. That's where you would put it in the genre category, but it does not play like any other fighting game, whereas Dragon Ball FighterZ does to a certain extent. But yes, it's awesome. I really think they outdid themselves with the DLC, and even though I think the price point is pretty exorbitantly high, I do want another season of DLC, because they haven't done any of like the Tournament of Power characters like Jiren or Toppo, who I really want in there because he would just be big and awesome and fun. And I think, and then we listed all the other ones we'd love to see, more obscure ones, but there's a lot of options for them.
Yes, yeah. I even though it would be it is already a lot of Gokus, and it would be even more Gokus, but I really wanted Ultra Instinct Goku. I just need him. I just need to have him and Jiren. I need to just do that. I need that for me. And then obviously Kefla also.
It would be pretty cool. Oh yeah, they've got to get Kefla in there. There's a lot of options. They could do all 3 of the Wolf guys, so you can do an entire Wolf team from
You mean the
Universe
Trio
9.
de Dangers?
Trio de Dangers, yes. All right, let's go ahead and move on, Sean. The next newest game we have is Hitman 2. And I have probably not played as much Hitman 2 this week as you have, but I did play a good amount. I've stopped myself after so I've done the first 4 maps, but I have not gone on yet. In the last week, I've been going back to the first 4 and doing all sorts of activities just to get to know them better, including I did a Silent Assassin suit only run on the 2nd and 4th maps.
Nice.
And it was fun. I was pretty proud of myself, and I will have to tell the stories later. Have you gotten to the 4th map yet?
No, I am on Mumbai. I'm basically about done with Mumbai and about to move on.
Okay, so I will not talk about the 4th one because that would involve spoilers, but I can tell you how I did Colombia because it was a fun, dangerous experience. But what have you been up to in the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly like I finished up Columbia. I have level 20 on Columbia. I have not done a Silent Assassin suit only run because that map I feel like has a shit ton of challenges. It's easier to get level 20 without doing any of the classics challenges that it is on the Miami map for me. So eventually I'll go back and do all of that stuff. And then I've been playing a lot in Mumbai, which is a cool... Mumbai feels like a super version of Marrakesh from the last game.
Yes.
There's it's got all the crowd stuff comes in really big because they put in that very Assassin's Creed-esque blend into the crowd mechanic that I think is cool, and having these enforcers around the map that will see through basically almost any disguise unless you're blending into the crowd. It's a very different dynamic, and it plays with the new mechanics really well. But the main thing I want to talk about is I want to tell a story of what I also did in the Columbia map, which I think is the last thing I did in the Columbia map, which was I was doing the challenge for feeding all 3 of the targets to the hippo, El Mijo. Have you done that one,
No,
Jonathan?
I haven't.
Okay.
I have not been hitting the challenges that hard. I've been kind of just going where my heart tells me to go. I find the Silent Assassin suit-only stuff just a really fun, different kind of challenge. I wasn't doing it just to get. I mean, it did get my mastery up like 5 levels, but that wasn't like the reason I went to do it.
Yeah, so I've been kind of like looking at the challenges and seeing which ones I want to do and doing those. And yeah, the hippo one, like that's just one of my favorite parts of that Columbia map, because I think the last time we talked about it, I don't know if I had done that much stuff in the mansion area. But the mansion in Columbia is really cool, and there's a lot of little tiny extra bits over there that you can kind of fuck around with. One of which being the drug lord guy has his pet hippo that he grew up with named El Mijo. That he has been. I love the whole story setup is that he has been feeding dead bodies to this hippo as a way to like get rid of them, which has meant that the hippo is kind of like addicted to meat, and they're trying to deal with like the hippo. Like, this is actually not, like, a really good sort of appetite for the hippo to have. It's not healthy for the hippo. It should be eating more fruits and stuff also. And so they have brought in this trainer thing to try to, like, kind of rehabilitate the hippo so it can have a more normal diet. And the hippo's kind of sulking. And so to be able to feed people to the hippo, you have to bring the hippo out. And so, of course, the way you do that is you knock out the trainer, take his clothes, throw the trainer into the pit with the hippo. The hippo will come out, eat the trainer. Now, you're dressed as the trainer, which means you can go talk to the drug lord guy and be like, oh, hey, the hippo's super cool now. It seems like he's if you want to come and hang out with your cool hippo friend that you grew up with since childhood, the hippo that you have, like, I don't know if it's a photo or if it's a painting, but there's, like, a portrait of the drug lord with the hippo as kids in his, like, gallery he has in his mansion. That's how much he loves this hippo. And he's like, oh, El Mijo, oh, you're good. Again, it's like, oh, my little baby, I love you. And you'll go and, like, mess around with the hippo, and then you can just shove him in. And that's one of the ways to kill that character. But then there's an additional challenge, which is to kill him that way, and then to both feed the lady and the weird drug guy who goes around and, like, actually works in the labs to feed both of them to the hippo also, which at first seemed like it was going to be a more significant challenge. It's actually not that hard to do because there are 2 different sort of mission stories you can do with those characters that bring them in relatively close proximity to where that hippo thing is, just through like weird side paths and tunnels that you have to find. And so I did it with the lady, and if you use the shaman one, you can kind of bring her close to that area and knock her out and drag her away. It's a little bit of a challenge to kind of get her totally isolated and knock her out, but you can do that. And so I did that. While I was doing this, I also I had unlocked the ceremonial knife that is on that level. That's a whole... I would just recommend Googling how to get that because it's kind of an annoying process. But you find this knife in like a hidden chamber that you can use, and then once you find it in the level, you unlock it so you can bring it as a loadout. So I had this ceremonial knife with me the whole time while I was doing this, which is important because the next part I went to was to the drug like developer like technical area and to go knock that guy out and get him to the hippo. And like halfway through this process of what I was doing, I realized the easy way to do this is to turn to the hippie and get the guy to move to the area, to that area where he goes to meet with the hippie, and then knock him out and then drag him to the hippo. If you're trying to do this challenge, just do it that way. It's so much easier. It was really late, and I was kind of tired, and I was like, this will be fine. I'll just go to wherever he is, use some coin bullshit, kind of get him isolated, just knock him out and drag him. I'd killed a bunch of people, so the tunnels were basically clear, and it was like a very easy shot to get to the hippo as long as I had him knocked out. So I was like, I don't need to do this whole like rigmarole to pull him to a certain side of the map. But the thing I didn't anticipate is that there's just a shit ton of guards in the coca fields on that map. And so while it's normally not a problem, if you're ever dragging a body, anybody who's like in eye shot of you is going to go after you immediately. And there's a lot of people in those coca fields. So while I was trying to isolate him, knock him out, I couldn't quite get it to work right. I was getting very tired and very frustrated, and I just was annoyed and stubborn and didn't want to back out and just do the fucking hippie thing, which would have been much easier to do. So instead, what I did was So one thing we talk about on this podcast, Jonathan, is our relative play styles in playing video games. And I feel like normally, Jonathan, you're like chaos, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You're when we talk about Red Dead or Hitman, you're just like going crazy and murdering people and just going flying by the seat of your pants, doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yes, it seems fun. I am like order, and I'm like, I have like this thing I want to do, and I'm very meticulous about it. It's why I get like Silent Assassin on all the elusive targets. It's the way I like to play these kinds of games. And normally that means that I don't kill a lot of random people because I'm very focused on the whole role-playing experience. That whole element of it is pretty germane to how I play video games. But there's a dark side to playing it that way, which is what I experienced in this when I got frustrated, which that when I flip the switch of where I just decide to kill people, I legitimately kind of disturbed myself at some point because I just went and I was like the fucking Predator because I was in these giant coca plants with this fucking ceremonial knife and just sneaking around, and I killed everybody. Like all the guards, all the scientists, the people working on the docks, everybody in that area, that map was dead either by ceremonial knife or by the big machete that I found in a tree stump about halfway through. That's like, I'll use this also. And like almost nobody saw me. If anybody saw me, they died immediately afterwards. And I must have killed like 40 NPCs in that one area because there's so many people and so many guards. And it was so fucked up. And I just went up and I slit every one of their goddamn throats, knocked that piece of shit out, dragged him over, and threw him and fed him to that fucking hippo. And then I went to bed, and I slept like a fucking baby.
Sounds good. See, come over to the dark side, Sean. It's fun.
But the problem is when I'm on the dark side, it's not just chaos, happy, fun, like, woo. It's like, oh no, I'm going to very methodically kill every single person on this map. Like, it's done now. Like, I'm a fucking vengeful assassin god at this point. Just, you've pissed me off too much, game, and I'm just going to end everything.
I think that sounds like the right strategy. So we're going to be switching roles this week because I did the exact opposite of that on Columbia.
Great.
I did it Silent Assassin suit only, which, you know, it may surprise you that I even have the capacity to, you know, be focused that long to do that. But I did have a lot of fun with it. I kind of got on a kick of trying to do the maps this way because in the fourth map, I just sort of stumbled along a discovery. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. That just allowed me to, like, I think there's a way to do this that I would not have expected. And I'm excited to tell you the way I did it because it sort of involved cheesing it a little bit, but in the best way. And it was very entertaining and was a lot of, you know, nerve-wracking fun. But then I went to Columbia, which is my other favorite map in Hitman 2 so far. And I did that. And so Columbia has the three targets. You have the woman, and you have the drug lord, and you have the drug maker dude, whatever their names are. And so where you start in the town, the woman, Andrea Michaels, or whatever her name is there closest. And what I decided... So I kind of had a lot of different ideas, but I'm like, she's the closest. She has the smallest sort of wandering path if you don't, you know, mess with her. So I'm going to try this one first. And again, I'm doing it all suit only. So the first thing I did was the thing I smuggled in with me was emetic poison. So something that I could use to make her have to go throw up in a bathroom, the food poisoning thing. So I got that. I snuck into her compound, and the way I did it is you go around the back, there's a gate, there is a guard there, I threw a coin over the gate. It took a couple of tries to figure that out, exactly what the arc would be, and then I had to run up, pick the lock real quick, run in, and like hide in a bush or something, and then go inside, and I got into the bathroom. There was one guard who was going to be messing me up, so in the bathroom, I got that guard to come in by overflowing the sink, put him in. There's a place there where you can store two bodies, so I have one body stored so far in the bathroom, and then the bathroom allows you to go out onto the side of the building, and you can kind of shimmy around and climb up, and you can get in a window near the woman's desk where she's going to be. And I'm like, okay, good. I hope there's poison on her desk. There is no poison on her desk, but there are a place to drink something on her desk. But there is on this big table where they're like planning their evil schemes in the middle of the room. So I get up there, wait until she leaves. There's a lot of people working. I throw a coin, so one of them looks. And I don't have a ton of coins with me, so I'm like, I'm going to run out of coins at a certain point here. But I throw the coin, that person looks around, I go up, poison the water, and then walk back out, and I'm just hanging out on the side of the building for a while, hoping this will work. And it does, and she drinks the water, and then she goes down to the bathroom. I climb in the window from outside, wait for her to vomit, then drown her in her own vomit, because that's how you always do it in Hitman, and then threw her body in that thing and went back out and went back the way I came, and I'm like, that went surprisingly smoothly. So I'm like, maybe I can do it with the other two. But that's the easiest one. She has the fewest guards. She has, again, the simplest kind of route. It's just a house. But then I'm like, Okay, there's the second guy. Is it Nick Delgado?
Something like that.
See,
I don't remember their names. I just killed them.
I know. I'm hearing it in the voice of Diana, the British woman in your ear. Nick Delgado is like how she says it, you know? And first I just have to figure out how to get into his compound because it's very, like, under lock and key, and all the entrances are guarded, except I realize there's one if you shimmy around the side of his compound, and you have to get rid of the cameras here. So you, like, shoot the cameras out with a silenced pistol, and you go around the side, and there's a vine you can climb up and you can get in, and there's a bunch of gardeners and guards, but I went and picked up a couple of extra coins before I went over to this part of the map, went through all of that, and then I kind of went down the sort of, this is the right-hand side of the compound. And if you go down that far enough to the main mansion area, you can get in this one window into a bathroom. Bathrooms are very useful in Hitman 2. This one also has a cupboard where I can store 2 bodies and a sink. And in this area, as luck would have it, Nick Delgado comes with one of his guards, and outside of that bathroom is a big kind of ballroom where there's a piano and a cello. Do you remember this part?
Yes, yeah.
This took a lot of work to figure out the timing of. I must have reloaded a save like 10 times just figuring out what is the exact timing. Because what I had to do was get the guard away from him. And the easiest way to do that is to overflow the sink in the bathroom. So I do that. The guard will come in as the guard is... And then I need the guard to be knocked out so I can go out into the main room, get Nick Delgado to come over my way. He will not come in for the bathroom. He never comes close enough to hear the sink. But I could strum the cello, get Nick around. I would run around to the other side of the piano. And then there are some maids in the room, but they generally have their backs turned. And I would just shoot him in the head, drag his body into the bathroom. But it had a lot of work to try to figure out the timing of this. Ultimately, it was... I had to wait until Nick and his guard were leaning against the piano having a conversation. That's when I overflowed the sink. Wait until the guy comes in, knock him out as fast as I humanly can, and I do not put his body in the cupboard yet. I have to run out, strum the cello as Nick is walking away, because he will just leave the area, and I don't think he comes back if that guard is not there. And so I strum the cello really quick. Nick kind of turns around, and I'm like, yes, run around the piano, shoot him, bring him into the bathroom, store both dead bodies, and now I've done 2 of these. And I'm very impressed with myself. And now, and this is actually one of the hardest parts, is getting back out of the bathroom and like going through the guards again to get to the other side of the map where there's the coca fields, where you can move around relatively unencumbered because of all the tall grass and everything. You just can't kill people unencumbered unless you do what you did, Sean, and just go crazy with it. So,
yes, but of course you can't do if you're trying to do Silent Assassin.
Yes. So I do all of that. I get over to the coca fields. And for a while, I'm just following, it's Jorge Delgado, or so whatever his name is, and I'm following him around and trying to figure out what's this guy's pattern, because he is the most heavily guarded, right?
Oh, yeah, by far.
He's hard to get alone. So what I ultimately figure out is if you follow him for long enough, he has this building he goes in on the far end of his compound that is like his little shack or whatever, and that has guards all around it. It only has one guard inside of it. And otherwise he will be in there alone for like a minute or so. So as he's heading over there, I head over there, and in the back there's a patch of grass and a like recycling bin, dumpster that you can like throw the bodies in, right? And so I turn off the air conditioning, so the guard comes out to check that. I choke him out. I actually think at this point I had a wrench, and I just hit people with a wrench because it's fast, you know? Yes. Knock him out, put his body in the thing. Now Jorge is in there, and I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how I'm going to get in this building and kill Jorge. Because I was fiddling... What I wanted him to do is I wanted Jorge to come out for the air conditioning, but he wouldn't do it again. Like, I was fiddling with it off and on, and just he will not respond to that. And there's guards at every entrance. This is near the docks. There's a ton of people over there. This is going to be really tough if I'm going to do this. So I'm like, what do I do? And then I had an idea, and I'm like, but I'm looking at Jorge. Why am I looking at him? It's because there's a window here. And there's no one in the building, and I have a silenced pistol. So I just shot him in the head through the window with my silenced pistol, and I'm like, okay, someone's going to find him, but not yet, because there is a helicopter very near me. It is the closest exit. And if I can get from here to that helicopter before they find that body, before anyone checks out why he has not come out yet, then I'm going to do this silent assassin. And I was able to do it. It involved, again, a lot. I was down to like my last coin, but got through everything, got to the helicopter, got away, and that's how I did it. And I feel pretty good about that because, again, that took genuine kind of skill at a certain point.
Yeah, no, that's good. That like what you described of killing the first target, the woman, like that is exactly like I have not done the suit only thing yet, but that is exactly the scenario I envisioned of how that is 100% how I am going to do it eventually when I do that. Of like, yes, you get the poison, in that fucking cup, and it's very easy to get her down there. Yeah, no, it's one of the great things about Hitman is just how versatile the game is, and how there are so many. You can both do the Silent Assassin suit only run and have a tremendous amount of fun that way, because I did that on the first map. Or you can just say, I'm going to murder every living thing in this fucking area until I'm able to murder this guy by feeding him to a hippo, and nothing will stop me from that path. And the game not only accommodates but encourages you to do both and rewards you for doing both.
Yes.
And Hitman 2 is fucking awesome.
I have not done Miami as much as you have. I am utterly at a loss for how to do that suit only. I have no idea.
It was tricky, but it is the way I did it was I used the method that there's a challenge for killing both of the targets at the same time by pushing the guy off of, like, pushing him onto the racetrack and causing the woman to crash. And there's a very specific setup that you have to do that I don't want to spoil, because it was a fun discovery when I figured out how you do that. But that is the one I did, because while it is a lot of work to get that to happen, you get both the targets immediately, and then you can escape from the helicopter on the roof, like, relatively unharassed.
Interesting.
It's pretty awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and move on, Sean. The next game we have to talk about, which now we're kind of, the releases are kind of clumping up, because this was a Tuesday release before the Friday or Thursday night release of Smash Bros. Ultimate, and this is Persona 3 Dancing Moon Night and Persona 5 Dancing Star Night, which have been just atrociously mistitled Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight. You don't do that, guys. But they've retitled those. Those came out in English this week for the PlayStation 4. There is a sort of version of the set they had in Japan where you pay $100 and you get Persona 3 and 5, but you also get Persona 4 Dancing All Night ported over to the PS4. Although, and this is different than the Japanese edition, your DLC from the Vita version does not carry over. You have to rebuy it for Persona 4. And in Japan, you didn't have to. If you owned the DLC, they just gave it to you. That kind of sucks.
Huh. That does suck.
Because there's a lot of it, Sean. I know, because my wallet felt it back in the day when that game came out. But anyway, so now I am the proud owner of all 3 Persona Dancing games on my PS4. They are in a folder just called Persona Dancing. Just 3, 4, 5 right in a row. But I got the physical release. I was telling you guys about this. I got a price error on Amazon, so I got these for very cheap. And I have to say, the physical release of these games in English is tremendously disappointing. I wish I would have brought it to, like, show you here, Sean, but it is just this little digibook. So it's a book so it's got pages, and then at the back is a tray for the discs. And it's actually thinner than a normal Blu-ray PS4 case. It's like a very small little thing. You open it up. The artwork on the front and back is kind of nice. The art book part of it itself is just like assets from the game. It's not concept art or anything cool like that. It's just like, here's a page with, this is what Yukari looks like. Here's some snapshots of her dancing in the game. Here's what Morgana looks like. Here's some snapshots of Morgana dancing in the game. And then the one cool thing is you do get like the cover art for the 2 games without text on them, and those look neat, but that's kind of it. It's a very lazy art book. And then the laziest part of this entire package is in the back. The 2 games they don't get their own cases the way they did in the Japanese edition. The 2 discs are just stacked on top of each other. And I don't mean like they're offset, like one is on top of I mean they're in the same tray.
Jeez.
Like it's 2 discs. Like I know PC games would used to come like that, like Myst 4 when you had to install, because there were like 3 discs and they would just stack them in one tray. That's how they did it with this. And there's just 3 and 5 on top of each other. It's very lazy. This does not affect the quality of the games or anything, or even that for $100 that is a pretty good deal, because it's 2 $60 games plus a re-release of a $40 Vita game for $100. That's fine. But yeah, I was disappointed in that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my luxurious Japanese edition off camera right now.
I know.
And it is gorgeous.
It's a beautiful thing, and we did not get that in America. But oh well, I do have the games. I have played probably an hour of Persona 3, maybe 2 hours of Persona 5. I went in and did a couple of songs in Persona 4, so just getting a feel for all of them. And it is the same games we played earlier this year in Japanese. Like, they haven't messed with any of the the game parts of it. It plays totally fine. The translations for English are very good. The voice acting is outstanding, as always. For Persona 5, it's the exact same cast you know and love, because it's only been a year since they did that dub, and no one has become rich and famous yet to leave the cast. With Persona 3, it's mostly the same cast. I think it's the cast from the Arena games and Persona Q, which means that Fuka is new. And Ken is new, although they still cast an old woman who sounds like she's a chain smoker, so Ken still does not sound good, but Ken is new. And Shinji, I think, is the new voice, but he's not in the game except in a DLC song. So,
okay.
Yeah. But like, Elizabeth is the Elizabeth we all know and love. And, maybe English Elizabeth is not the same as the Elizabeth you love so much in Japanese, but it is a very good approximation of that.
It is as close as any other person could possibly come to Miki Swashiro, which is not close enough, but who could ever compare?
I mean, having played a substantial amount of it in Japanese, I did realize how much English Elizabeth is mimicking those cadences and that vocal tone, and she is doing a really good job. Like, you cannot do Miyuki Swashiro completely, but you can do a good approximation of it, and that is definitely... I love English Elizabeth. She's still very bubbly and fun. So they're very good. My only disappointment in the localizations is I think the typeface they chose for Persona 3 is very boring, and I think Persona 5, it does not look as good as the typeface for the English localization of actual Persona 5. It looks a little drier than that, but again, that's not a big deal. It does not impact the gameplay. But everything's fine. Again, as I said, it's the same game, except now I, as a non-Japanese speaker, can understand everything they are saying, and there are some fun events to watch there. Again, I'm not sure when I'm going to have time to go full bore into playing these again, but I did the other day. I put in the Persona 5 disc intending to play one song, and I played for a good hour and a half because it is just that addictive. And it's real good. And if you haven't played these games yet because you were not crazy and didn't import them in Japanese, this is your chance. And they're very, very good games. If you want to do some Persona dancing, we highly recommend them. These English localizations seem totally fine to me. And not just fine. They're obviously very, very competent, good, well-done versions of these games. And it is cool to now have the entire trilogy on my PS4, and I can just easily go play those whenever I want. I'm very happy to have them.
Awesome.
Yes. But Sean, there's something I'm even happier to have. Let's talk about it. We finally, after what feels like years of waiting, but really has only been 6 months since announcement, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch launched this week. I was playing it Thursday night, the moment it unlocked, until about 1 a.m. that night, and then I had to be responsible and go to bed because I was teaching at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then I played it a lot since, and basically when I have not been working on papers and other stuff, I have been playing Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it is so good. And I also, Sean, I have my Ridley amiibo. You can see here, Ridley is a very detailed amiibo. You can see his wings and his giant fucking tail, which in the game, you see how the tail kind of ends in a point, Sean?
Yes.
Yes. In the game, when Ridley uses his tail for an attack, he just grabs the end of the tail and shoves it at people. It's awesome.
like a knife?
Yeah, like with his hand. He takes his tail and he goes, "Ugh," like he's shivving people with it. It's awesome.
Jesus.
Yeah. Ridley is cool. Everything in this game is cool. There is so much in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It is genuinely difficult to know where to start, let alone where to take any conversation on this game. You know, when I booted it up the other night for the first time, I watched the opening movie. It took me to the main menu screen, and I remember I just sat there for about 2 minutes because I didn't know what to do. There are so many things you could do. I could go into the main Smash mode, but if I did that, there's a lot of stages to choose from. There's a lot of different rule types I could use. There's not just the original Smash Brothers mode, but there's now a mode called Squad Strike, which is a 3-on-3 mode, a la like Marvel vs. Capcom or Dragon Ball FighterZ or something like that. Mm-hmm. That does it sort of that way. And then you have all the other kind of things you would do there. There's the stage morph feature, which I still haven't used. It looks really cool. My brother tells me it's awesome. There's so much in this game I haven't seen it yet. You could go into the Spirits mode and do Adventure and do the whole World of Light thing, which is like a 40-hour fucking Smash Brothers campaign if you want to do that. You could go into Games and More and do Classic mode and All-Star mode and all the other crazy things you get to do there. You could go online and play a lot of all the different modes online with people. There is so... Or you could go into just the music player, and there are 900 tracks, and you can play them like an MP3 player, and they even have the feature where if you take your Switch on the go with you and put in headphones, you can turn off the Switch, put it in sleep, and it'll still play the music for you like you're using an iPod. So nice. There is so much, and it's overwhelming. But I think if I were to try to arrange my thoughts on all the things I've been doing in Smash Bros. Before I tell you like what specific things I'm enjoying in it, the thing I keep coming back to, like my thesis sort of on this game is that, you know, I've been playing Smash Brothers nearly my entire life. The first game is 1999. I was born in 1992. I played it in 1999. I've been playing it for a long goddamn time, you know? And, 20 years now. It's crazy. And it's been with me for a long time through different periods of my life. But when I was a kid, into, being a fucking teenager, the way my brother and I would often play it is we would, with all the characters in the game, whether this was Melee or Brawl or sometimes even in the original N64 one, is we would just make up stories together with the characters and like send them on campaigns. Like Mario and Luigi are doing something because these guys are bad. We would just like tell funny stories and then like come up with reasons to do fights. And it's like the kind of thing when you're a kid and you have action figures or toys or something like that, you make up stories for the toys so you can do stuff with them. And Smash Bros. Kind of always was open to that because it is this big crossover and it feels like a big fun toy box you have in front of you. And we would play it like that. And Smash Bros. Ultimate makes me feel like a kid again, even though my brother is like, half a country away. I'm not playing it with him. We're not coming up with new stories. But the game itself has so embraced that side of it, and the game is constantly encouraging you to use your imagination and come up with those stories. Some of those they've narrativized things around the edges to kind of push you in that direction, and some of it is there's just so many tools at your disposal, you kind of can't help but come up with a story for, like, why are Ridley and Simon Belmont fighting? I don't know, but let's come up with something. Why are they fighting on the fucking Splatoon stage, And you just do this in your head because it's so much fun. And it comes down to things like in classic mode. So classic mode is sort of the arcade mode of Smash Brothers where you go through, you pick a character and you do like a rising series of fights, right? The way they do it in this game is really cool, where each of the 74 fighters has an individualized classic mode campaign. And what it is, so it's always the same number of fights, but those fights are determined by something about the character. And they get pretty creative with these. Like, if it's Yoshi, you're fighting all the other big reptile/dinosaur characters in the game, Okay. So you're going to fight Ridley, and you're going to fight, who are the King K. Rool, and you're going to fight characters like that up until the end. And if you are Samus, you're going out and getting bounties on different bad guys in different parts of the world. Something like that. If you are Donkey Kong, the first one is you fight Diddy Kong, then Diddy Kong is on your side as your teammate for the rest of the fights as you go through a series of places on your way to New Donk City, and it ends in New Donk City with you fighting the Mario Brothers and like taking over the city and things like that. And they're just there's some also that I haven't played yet, but I've heard about that just do other creative things with it. Like I think it's Wolf, who I have not unlocked yet. His classic mode, apparently, is Wolf is fighting entirely other characters who were cut after Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So he's fighting, like, Pichu and Snake and Ice Climbers and people like that. So they're just, those all, again, there's those little narrativized elements that allow you to, like, okay, I want to think about this. One of my favorites is Marth from Fire Emblem. Marth, the Fire Emblem game he is from, is Fire Emblem and the Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, or Fire Emblem the Dragon of Light, whatever it's called in Japanese, right? Mm-hmm. And so his is a series of dragons. He fights all the dragons in the game, and there are also specialized boss fights at the end. And so, like, his boss is Rathalos, this big dragon that you come and fight that's from another series. Yeah, that's
from Monster Hunter.
Yeah, and so you fight Rathalos. Mario also fights Rathalos. I'm not sure why Mario fights him, but it is cool. And it's a cool fight that you do. So they've done all these things like that, and it's just this little bit of narrativization that really allows you to, like, kind of role play within the game and feel like you're playing with toys, which is what, like, that's the opening cinematic of the original Smash Brothers on Nintendo 64, is the Master Hand taking all these toys out of the toy box, and that's what you're doing here. And they have so many assets in this game. They have so many characters. They have so many assist trophies. They have so many Pokeballs. They have over 100 stages. Each of those stages has 3 different variants that are pretty different from one another, like more so than in Smash 4, where you just had the Omega version, which just made a single platform in the middle of the stage. They've done a lot more customization. So when Sakurai bragged that there were like 300 stages in this game, that's not like an unreasonable way to look at it. And so you have all of that. You have 900 music tracks. There is so much for them to throw at you to really make you feel like you're playing this wide, limitless world of possibilities. And for me, that's why I have been enjoying so immensely the World of Light campaign mode that is the adventure mode in this game. I've seen some split reception on it in the reviews. And I will say, if I were tasked to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in like 1 week and have to write a review on a deadline, I would hate World of Light too. This is the last thing on earth I would want to marathon in 40 hours in a single week. You know, some games just do not stand up to that, and that's not how you should play World of Light. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I actually think it's really creative, because the way World of Light works is it's the main way you do the spirits system in the game. And if you haven't heard about this yet, the spirits system, it sort of replaces the trophies. It also replaces the character customization from Smash 4. And what it is it's a series of essentially like stickers or badges or something like that that you get of characters from a wide variety of series, including those in this game and also series that are not otherwise represented in Smash Brothers. So for instance, like Snake is the only character from Metal Gear Solid, but there are spirits for everyone else. There's a spirit for fucking Dr. Strangelove. There's a spirit for the boss. There's a spirit for your buddy, whatever his name is. Who's the...
Otacon.
Yeah, Otacon. There's a spirit for... There's two spirits for Ocelot, Revolver Ocelot, and actually your main Revolver Ocelot spirit evolves into older Revolver Ocelot and things like that. And what the spirits are is there's main spirits and primary spirits. The main spirits have 4 different types. 3 of those types are part of a basic, like, rock, paper, scissors system, like, you know, Pokemon or Persona or something where you have type elemental advantages. And you equip those primary spirits and you level those up, and that is a customization thing that powers up your character, gives it type advantages, things like that, gives it other little abilities. And then each of those primary spirits has a certain number of slots that you can fill with secondary spirits who all have specialized abilities. So if you're doing a stamina match, you could give yourself a spirit that gives you extra stamina. Or if you're doing a match where the condition they've thrown at you is the floor is made of poison, maybe there's a spirit who nullifies the effects of poison. Or if you're using Donkey Kong and he has big punches, you could do punch power up, things like this. And they're all different series. And World of Light, you go around on this overworld map that looks hand-painted. It's really beautiful. And you start with just Kirby. You're unlocking the other characters as you go along. If you unlock a character in World of Light and you don't have them in the main game yet, it gives you them on the main screen, because you do have to unlock all the characters in this. You start with just the original 8. And so you unlock characters, you go around, there are different fights, and each fight you find on the map has a certain sort of creative condition going on where something is happening in the fight, but what they're always doing is they're trying to recreate some idea from one of the large pieces of canon they have from all the different series that are represented. So just to give an example of this, and they're so creative with these, but the 2 that I wrote down because I found these so funny and creative, is there's one where the spirit you are fighting is Latios and Latias, the 2 Pokemon from Gen 3. They're like the flying Pokemon that are blue and red. And what they do there is that Latios and Latias are not in the game. They can come out as Pokeballs, but they're not fighters. So you fight 2 Charizards. One of the Charizards is colored red, and one of the Charizards is colored blue. And the 2 Charizards have been given faster movement speed, and they are programmed to do more of their side B moves, which like flings them across the map like a Latios or Latias. So you have those 2 to fight. Latios and Latias are coming out of Pokeballs constantly, and they have it on Delfino Plaza as the stage on the ground section because it looks like Venice, and Venice looks like the setting from the movie Pokemon Heroes where Latios and Latias were in. And it's playing Pokemon music. So they don't have Latios and Latias in the game, but they can sure as shit make you feel like you are playing the movie Pokemon Heroes in a very weird way. And that is so creative to me. And it's constantly throwing stuff at you like this, where if you even vaguely know the series, you realize what they're doing, and it's amazing. This is the last one I did today before we recorded the podcast, and I actually have not beat this fighter yet because it is so difficult. But one of the scenarios is you fight the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3. And what they do for that is the fighter who is representing the boss is Zero Suit Samus in like a silver leotard outfit. So she looks kind of like the boss looks in her camo. It's a stamina battle, kind of like the end of Metal Gear Solid 3. It's a stamina battle. She has very high stamina. You are on the Pikmin map Omega stage, which basically looks like you are in a grassy field, which looks like the end of Metal Gear Solid 3. It is playing an arrangement of Snake Eater, and the floor is poison because it's a survival kind of thing, so you have to equip the right spirit so you don't get poisoned while playing it. How cool is that?
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean of that. It does feel like the kind of thing that like I would also do with some games like that, like I did with some old Dragon Ball games or with Gundam Breaker 3 from a couple of years ago, which is that like you're playing with like the weird tool sets and like stages and characters and like all the customization options like Halo I also did some of this stuff with that the game gives you, and using that to like create a weird narrative, but instead of you just having to do it, the game is doing it constantly, regardless of if, like, you know, it's not concerned with whether or not it can perfectly do the boss fight, because it's not going to make a brand new Zero Suit Samus model. It's, you know, going to do a recoloring of it, and it's going to like take one of the existing stages that kind of looks like a flower field, and it'll put those elements together. But that's really cool.
It's really cool, and I love that there is a big, meaty campaign aspect to this that does a lot of that for you. And it kind of teaches you how to use these tools, because then you can go into normal Smash mode and set this all up for yourself. Like, I unlocked Ridley for the first time earlier today, and what I immediately did is I went into the Smash mode, I went to one of the Metroid maps, like Brinstar, where you would see Ridley in the actual game, I set the music to be the Ridley fight theme, and I fought Samus. And you just have fun with it that way. And then I think I fought with Ridley on, like, the Pokemon map against Blastoise or something, you know, like something stupid like that. Then just throw that out the window. But you can do all that for yourself, and World of Light does this for you. I think the Spirit system is really fun. I can understand it's not going to be for everyone, but I really like World of Light. It's to me really fun to play because it's not just these imaginative conditions they come up with, but there's a lot of interesting challenges they do. Like, you have to think about the battle conditions going in, and it's very RPG-esque, where half of the battle is not what you do when you're actually doing the fighting. It's which fighter you choose, first of all, because some fighters are just not going to do well in some scenarios. Like, you might need a heavier fighter if there's certain things going on, or you might need a lighter fighter who is more agile, right? And you do that, then you pick a spirit, you have to pick your type advantage, you do support spirits that are going to help you with that match. It's, again, very RPG-esque on that level. Then you take it in, see if it works. Sometimes they're very easy, sometimes they're really challenging, and I find it pretty rewarding to try to, like, look through all my spirits, level some of them up, do new like combinations that I haven't tried before, pick a new fighter, try a new strategy, and so it's just really fun on that level as well. It's repetitive because, you know, this is a fighting game at the end of the day. Smash Brothers cannot suddenly become something it is not. You're going to be doing Smash Brothers fights, but there is a surprising amount of variety in this to me so far. Again, if I were one of the critics who had to play the entire goddamn thing in 1 week and like marathon World of Light for hours and hours on end, I don't know if I would be as enthusiastic about it, but the way I look at Smash Bros. Games is that Smash Bros. Games are built to last for years. They are not discrete experiences you play in like a week or two and then put back on the shelf, a la a Red Dead Redemption 2 or something like that. And nothing against those games. It's just, it's not that kind of thing. You play it, like, literally with Melee. You know, my brother and I spent years unlocking everything in that. And we were kids. The internet was very different back then. It's a different kind of thing. But that's how these games are built to last. And so I don't see myself finishing World of Light this month. I see myself finishing it in the months or years to come. And just, it's a part of the way I enjoy the game. And I really, really like it on that level. I love what they've done with Classic mode. You've got all the stuff in the main Smash mode. You mentioned Halo 3 earlier, Sean, and I've been thinking of Halo 3 a lot because this feels like the Halo 3 of Smash Brothers to me, because it is just, it has so much content in it, but it's also the clarity with which they've laid out the content. Like, when you go into a match in the main Smash mode, it just gives you a list of pre-made rule sets, a couple of those, and then you can also just say, create a rule set. And you can create a rule set, give it a name, and it's just there for you. So, like, I've made one that just is no trophies, because assist trophies can be fun to look at and play with, but if you want to play seriously, you kind of want to turn assist trophies off. So it's like the 3-man stock match that I kind of like to play with assist trophies turned off, and I just have that saved. But if I wanted to make whatever the Smash Bros. Equivalent of Thor is, which is that crazy mode you made in Halo 3 back in the day with grav hammers, I could do that and just have it saved. And I've got my custom modes made. You can, save all your replays and go watch those. The online offerings could be a little more robust, but they're there and they're easy to use, and the online connection actually is remarkably stable. As in, I've been playing a lot with my brother, and it feels like we're just on the couch together. There's been a couple moments of lag, but it's been very minor, and that amazes me for a fighting game. Like Dragon Ball FighterZ, I've never had a match online that did not have moderate to, severe lag. And that's true of most fighters. I've never played Smash Bros. Online and had it be this clear and easy to play. So, like, this really does feel like, in so many ways, the definitive version of the game. Just about everything you could want to be there is there. And then I also want to say, I really like the choice that they made that you have to unlock the fighters, because I think if they just started you off with every map unlocked and all 74 fighters unlocked, it wouldn't be as fun, because I wouldn't know where to go. But they start you with just the main 8 from the original N64 Smash Brothers. There are many different ways to unlock fighters. You unlock them at a very rapid clip. I think I have 40 unlocked now. I've only been playing for 3 days, and I'm not doing anything to cheese it. I'm just playing through the course of the game. And different ways you unlock fighters, which is in classic fighting mode, or in the main Smash mode, in classic mode, in World of Light. I'm generally unlocking different fighters in those 3. So, there's not overlap a lot, which is nice. I don't feel like my progress is being stymied by switching between the different modes. And it is fun, because you start out and you're like, okay, I want to see what their version of Link is in this game, and I want to see what their version of Samus, what have they changed about her? But then you're unlocking characters at a steady clip, and you can do a couple of events with them before moving on. And it encourages you to get to know the fighters. Like, Mega Man is a fighter I didn't use much in Smash 4, not because I didn't like him, just because I didn't get to know him very well. They were all unlocked from the start. But now, in this one, I unlocked Mega Man pretty early on in World of Light. There was a really tough boss fight where I made the decision I'm going to need a ranged attacker. Mega Man fires guns, obviously, got Mega Man out, and I got pretty good at Mega Man in that fight, and now I've been playing as Mega Man a lot and enjoying that, and I don't think I would have jumped to Mega Man if I had 74 fighters unlocked at once. So I really like that. I am feeling a little overwhelmed because this afternoon I unlocked King K. Rool, Ridley, Simon Belmont, and Lucina, and a couple of other cool fighters, all in a row, and I want to play a lot with all of them, and they're all very, very cool. All of the new fighters, man, they're so good. Ridley, the Inkling, Simon Belmont, the other one I just mentioned, I'm forgetting, King K. Rool, all of these, they are so true to the games they come from. They have so many good little touches. They're so fun and deep and different to play as. Simon Belmont is really cool because he moves exactly like he does in the classic Castlevania games. His walk is the Castlevania walk. He's got the whip. He's got the cross. He's got the holy water. He's got the axe. It's really, really neat. King K. Rool throws his crown, and he can use the big gun and suck people in and then shoot them out like he does in Donkey Kong Country 2. Ridley is just the fucking best. I already told you how he uses his tail. His over B move is where he just runs at the other player, grabs them, and rushes them into the air and then pounds them into the ground, which is what he does to Samus in many of their encounters. It's so good, Sean. This game is more than we deserve as people.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about it? Anything else I should cover that I haven't?
I think I'm always interested in the unlocking characters versus not unlocking characters in fighting games, because I saw a discussion on a thread the other day about that very thing in Smash Brothers, of people arguing the different perspectives. And I do think it's something of where I'm with you in the sense of it's one of the things I really loved about Smash Brothers Melee was that you're constantly unlocking characters, and it worked really well back then because, like you said, the internet's a different place. It was harder to just sort of know everything about a game before it even came out, and so there was you were unlocking characters that you maybe didn't even know were in the game, whereas with Smash Brothers 4 or Smash Brothers Ultimate or whatever, everyone knows every character that's in that fucking game already. But I think there is this I just think that I feel this way also about Dragon Ball FighterZ, of that I think it's, if you want to have Android 21 and just have the Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta characters, there should just be some sort of button code you can find online that's just press AAXXRRRL or whatever, and it just unlocks everything for you. Because I have a lot of sympathy for the people that they bought the game, they went home, and were okay, all my three friends that all play Smash all came over and were all right, let's load this up and let's just jump right in and play some Smash Brothers. And it's man, I can't wait to see how Solid Snake plays. I love playing him in Brawl, and being oh shit, I have to play 10 hours of this game before I'm actually going to unlock those characters I want. And then I also have a lot of sympathy for people who have to fucking organize fighting game tournaments and now are tasked with, well, shit, we need to unlock all the characters on fucking 20 of these goddamn Smash Brothers games. Holy shit. I just think people fighting game people should just put in some code that you can find and do it. I don't want a button in the options that says unlock everything, because I think that's a bit too direct. But just like some way to unlock everything without having to go through the hassle of it, I think is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because there's just no perfect solution to this that's going to satisfy everybody. I think, gun to my head, this was the right solution from like an artistic standpoint of wanting people to experience the game, but it's really tough with video games because they are both an artistic product and this consumer product that does not belong to the creator the same way other pieces of media do. And so, yeah, I think a code would probably be the right way to do that. Dragon Ball FighterZ, as it does for everything, charges you to do that. You can pay to do it. I don't think that's the right way to do it because you bought the game. No. If the content is in the game, you should have access to the fucking content. But yeah, it's, I think people will be pleasantly surprised if they're playing the different offerings. It does not take that long to unlock things. But as you said, like, there's going to be a lot of people playing it casually who just want to be like, I want to play Snake with my friends. And then it's like, well, Snake might be someone you unlock after 10 hours of play, but you're just playing tonight at a party or something, Yeah. So it's an imperfect world, it's an imperfect solution. But, hey, they gave us 74 fucking fighters. If we have to work for it a little bit, I'm okay with that.
Put Goku in the game, though.
I think they probably will. We're going to get fucking Joker. We're going to get Shoji Meguro music in this thing. It's crazy, Sean. There's a fucking version of the Snake Eater song in this. That blows my mind. It's not the vocal version, but it's almost like it's awesome that they did a new instrumental arrangement of it for this game. It's so crazy. Yeah. This game it's so good, Sean. I love it so much. I want to be playing it right now. I also will say, this is the most I've ever enjoyed a Smash Bros. Game as a single-player experience. I think they have built it out enough. Like, I played Smash 4 on 3DS and Wii U to varying amounts in single-player, but I feel like I kind of had to come up with my own ways to enjoy it. This is one where, like, I have not even looked at the challenges list yet because there are so many things for me to do on a single-player level, and I'm still unlocking stuff, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of World of Light. I think I've put 5 hours into it is my play clock, but, like, there's just so much that I think from a single-player experience, there's plenty to do here. Obviously, the heart of Smash Brothers is always going to be playing with other people, but, in between that, this is the rare fighting game that is not the rare fighting game, but there's something special about this game when you play it on your own and you just get better at it, because the mechanics are so plastic and there's so many different kinds of things you can do with them. I think this game leverages all that better than any of the other ones. So.
Good, yeah, because that was one of the things that was really disappointing to me about Brawl, was while, like, Subspace Emissary was an interesting novelty, it wasn't very fun to play, and I didn't think it was I much preferred the adventure mode from Melee, and like that combined with the arcade mode in Melee was a lot more interesting to me than what I remember of the single-player Brawl.
Well, and Subspace Emissary was more of a co-op experience, really. Like, it was better when you had people on the couch with you. You didn't have to have a co-op partner, but it was better that way, yeah. So I think this is so good. It makes the rest of the series more or less obsolete, and I'm sure we're going to get some very cool videos from fighting game tournaments out of it. Even if people, as you say, do have to suffer through unlocking everything to get the game working.
Yeah, because starting from, even if it seems like, from what I understand, people have found ways to very efficiently get the characters, it's still going to take a couple of hours to go from 8 to like 74 or whatever. Yeah. So
they do not do anything to block off the stages, and if I have one complaint, it's that the stage select screen, it has 103 stages on it. There is no way to efficiently present that all in one screen. It should be broken up, and I also wish there was a way to rearrange the stages. Like, you could say sort by, and I would love to be able to sort it by series, because, like, the other day, I was just trying to see what are all the Metroid stages in this, because there's more than I remembered. But they're listed in the order they came out. So, like, you start with the N64 stages, you go to the Melee stages, you go to the Brawl, etc., and they're all spread out. And so it's very easy, especially on this. They are all kind of tiny, because, again, they have to fit 100 icons on one screen. It can be kind of hard to find things, and I feel like a sorting menu would alleviate that. And that would be easy to patch in, so...
Do you feel that way also about well, I guess you haven't unlocked all of them yet, but with the characters... Is there that problem also? Because one of the videos I watched, it took one of the people playing like a minute to find the character they were looking for, because it was a version of the game that had all of them unlocked. But they're ordered, aren't they, by like the order that they came into the series?
Yeah,
which is like that's not very helpful for any of those characters. Like post Melee, there's just this like giant like blob of characters past the first like 16 or so. They're like,
yeah,
I have no idea. They could be anywhere in this giant mess of characters.
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've seen, and again, I do not have them all unlocked, like, they've done enough with the icons that it looks okay all on one screen, but I do wish you could sort them, like, because I think the order, there's some logic to doing it that way, because I just know, like, if I want to play as Incineroar, who is also fucking amazing, he's going to be at the bottom because he's brand new. But if I want to see all of the Pokemon are spread out from Pikachu at the very top to Incineroar at the very bottom, because they've added a Pokemon or two with every game. There's no easy way to just put all the Pokemon together. You should definitely be able to sort them. Like, you can do that with a lot of other things in the game. You press Y to sort, and there's different options. Again, it would be a pretty easy fix. I would love if they did that. Smash 4 had this same problem where they were ordered kind of randomly, and that got grating after a while. So it would be nice to just be able to say, like, you know, there's a lot of Fire Emblem games or characters represented here. I would like to do a match with, like, put all 8 Fire Emblem characters on one map. Where the hell are all they? You know?
Right, like, because can you imagine if you're someone who just never played any of the other Smash Brothers games and thus have no idea what order those characters came out in? Like, and say you're, like, at someone's house or something, and it's just like, oh, awesome, you said that Pac-Man's in this game? It's like, where the fuck, you know, because it's not like, okay, let's start with A and find where the P characters are, and it's not like, oh, let's start with the Mario characters and go through all the franchises. It's just like, here's this giant mess of characters. It was like, because I looked at the screen on like a YouTube video, it was like, I don't know where these characters are. I don't know where. I think they're looking for Marth or something. It's like, I can't pick it out. It's like a fucking Where's Waldo game.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I will be coming back to Colorado next week, and I will be bringing my Switch with me, and we will play some Smash Brothers at your place. I'll bring my dock. I'm trying to get my hands on one of those GameCube controller adapters, but they are in short supply. Because that's the easiest way for me to hook up multiple controllers with this thing. But we'll see. We'll find a way to play it.
Do you have Sonic and Solid Snake unlocked?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because that's the only two. I need those. I mean, I want the other ones also, but I want to play as Sonic and Solid Snake.
Nice. Yeah. Solid Snake is... I forgot how weird he is. He's hard to play as.
That's my best memories of Smash Brothers Brawl are both with Sonic and Solid Snake, and just you can be such dicks with those two characters in that game. Like Solid Snake in particular, because he has like the fucking Nikita like homing missiles, the bullshit he can do. And there was a Donkey Kong stage in Smash Brothers Brawl where you could just like weasel your way into this little fucking corner in between two platforms and fire missiles from there. And it was very hard to get you, and everybody hated me, but it was great.
Yes. All right, you want to go ahead and move on?
Oh, let's move on, Jonathan.
All right, Sean. Well, let's both pop a Prozac here. Let's let loose the Lexapro. Let's dive into Sean and Jonathan's depression corner for Doctor Who Series 11.
Oh yeah,
because I don't know about you, Sean, but I am fucking depressed about this show.
Yes. So we need to play a catch-up game.
Yes.
Because we didn't talk about the last 2 episodes. I gave brief, I guess spoiler-free impressions of The Witchfinders and It Takes You Away last week. Quick recap of that. My feelings on The Witchfinders was it is a totally disposable historical episode of Doctor Who that is only made in any way remarkable by it being totally disposable in a season that is mostly consisted of terrible episodes of Doctor Who, and Alan Cumming is a lot of fun in it. That's that episode. And then It Takes You Away is an episode I find very interesting. It is one of the only episodes with any sense of ambition in this whole season, but I also think it's very disjointed, and it feels like it doesn't quite know where it wants to, where it starts. It doesn't quite know how to get from where it begins to where it wants to end, and it just gets kind of jumbled along the way. But it's you know, again, in a season of Doctor Who as sort of abysmal as this one, it stands out as being one of the 2 best episodes. It's either that or Themes of the Punjab, and those are my feelings on those 2 episodes.
I mostly agree. I would say I am probably harsher on The Witchfinders, and I am more positive on It Takes You Away.
I thought that you would like It Takes You Away more than I did.
I genuinely like It Takes You Away. I like that, and I liked Demons of the Punjab. Demons of the Punjab has the asterisk by it of it's not really an episode of Doctor Who, like its best parts. Like that would be just a manifestly better episode of television if it were a one-act play, if it were a 1-hour TV movie, if it were something like that, or if it were of a different series, it does not need the Doctor Who component. It takes you away as an episode of Doctor Who I like. It is imperfect. It needs another pass at the scripting stage, and if it were in a season where I cared more about the characters, I really think that a tighter script, like just revised a little more, not overhauled, just revised, plus you go into it caring about the characters more, that could be the 13th Doctor's listen. That could be the 13th Doctor's, I don't know, pick an 11th Doctor episode, The Doctor's Wife or something. I think it could be a really touching episode. As it is, it's the one that made me feel the most of any of the 11 or of the 10 episodes this year. And we should briefly say, before we dive into spoilers, the finale, which aired today, the Battle of Rapajigabubabum.
Ranskor Av Kolos.
Don't give them the dignity of that, Sean.
I will say it as long as there's a very brief window in my life, Jonathan, which is right now, where I will remember what the title of this episode is, so I'm going to say it while I can.
Okay. I was inputting it into my Doctor Who hard drive over here, and putting its episode title in, and for that one, I just wrote Who Gives a Fuck. I wrote, it's story 287, Who Gives a Fuck?
Yeah.
And that's because honestly, Sean, the finale might have been the most flaccid, pathetic, worthless episode of television I have ever seen. For any show I really like. Like, I'm sure there are worse episodes of TV out there, but I haven't seen them. For shows I watch, like, I care about enough to watch 11 seasons of, this is the most pathetic hour of television I've ever seen. Are you on a similar wavelength with me?
Yeah, no, I think I'm basically there with you. It's a fucking Chibnall-ass episode of Doctor Who that is, like, aggravated by being at the tail end of a bunch of not Chibnall episodes of Doctor Who, and we had this, like, even if it is far from perfect, there is this beautiful period where it's like, oh, other people are writing the show. We are away from the just, like, atrocious fucking first 5-episode run. With, like, Rosa, it was a brief respite, but only, like, half of a brief respite in the middle there of all these fucking Chibnall episodes. Got away from it. They're still all, basically hamstrung by being in this season at all because of how poorly set up all those episodes are. But it was something different. And then you get back and you do the Chibnall shit again, and it's as bad as it's ever been. And it also has, like, the audacity to be technically a season finale in a way that's so just, like... It's basically the polar opposite of quality from what we got at the end of last season. And the last 2 seasons, and the last 3 seasons, the last
6 seasons, the last 10 seasons, the last 55 seasons, yes.
Yeah, it's like the closest I can get, and it's funny because this episode actually references it, is Journey's End, the end of season 4, which I think is a truly abysmal episode of Doctor Who. Was one of the hardest ones to rewatch when I did the most recent rewatch, and it has some similar problems that this episode has. But at the very least, you have the Doctor, and you have Rose, and you have Martha, and you have Donna, and you have Captain Jack, and you have Sarah Jane. It's like you have, and like it's part of the problem of that episode is you have all those characters. But I like all of those characters.
You only have a beautiful moment at the end with David Tennant in the TARDIS, just quietly being sad.
Yes, there are good moments in that episode for sure. But this finale, the only thing in it I like is Graham, I think, and even that's just like, well, he's here. And it's
Graham is
bad.
part.
We have to have a whole conversation.
I know. Yeah, Graham is part of the stupidest thing in that episode, so we'll get to it. Oh my god. Okay.
In a way, I think Graham is actually he has become the symbol of both everything that is good about the season, which is very little, and he's absolutely, I think, a symbol of everything that is wrong with this season.
Yeah.
But we all have to work up to that, because I want to talk about a little bit more in detail the last 2 episodes, because you very recently watched them.
Yeah, we will. Okay, let's back up to the Witchfinders real quick. I'll just say, there's not a lot to say about the Witchfinders. It is disposable. I thought it was worse than you did, because I think it is a semi-competent historical romp for about 30 minutes. King James doesn't really have any reason to be there, but Alan Cumming is funny, and him being very obviously gay and into Ryan was kind of an interesting thing that, like most things around gender or sexuality or diversity this season, they were more, referencing and gesturing to than doing anything of substance with, which I think is a big problem this season. But whatever, they did that. That was kind of fun. And then it runs so out of steam before the end. The last 20 minutes were like having my goddamn fingernails getting bamboo under them. It was just such a goddamn torture wheel of inanity and technobabble and meaningless exposition and the characters running around and big scary monsters coming out that had no reason to be there, or like the story just I could not tell you what the story of that episode was because I tuned it out so hard by the end. And I thought about just turning it off, but I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to get my Switch out and play some Smash Brothers while this is playing because I can do that, and it'll allow me to get through this torturous episode of television. I do not think The Witchfinders is good. I think, like, if I were to compare it to, like, comparable episodes of Who from the modern period, there would be things like, I don't know, the one on the Scottish Highlands with David Tennant and Queen Victoria.
Yeah. Like Wolf and Claw, or Tooth and Claw, I think.
That one is infinitely better. Curse of the Black Spot, bad episode, but Amy fights with a sword, and that's kind of cool, and I like the characters in it, so that was better. Like, yeah, it's a shitty episode of television.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I said last week, and I will stand by this, is that this feels like this is like Curse of the Black Spot if we hated, or didn't hate, but like had no emotional connection to any of the main cast.
I hate some of the main characters. We'll get into that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but you know, I just want to be neutral about it for now, like, because I didn't hate them. I kind of hate everybody now that the season's done.
Yeah, Sean,
like, and there's no more like, oh, what if they do this? Like, that's done. I mean, obviously there's going to be the New Year's special. There's going to be the season in fucking 2020. We'll talk about that later.
I'm not going to be watching it.
Yeah, but like, the season is over, and so now it's not like, oh, there might be something interesting in the next couple of episodes. They might do something, you know, the like game we played when we talked about the first couple of episodes of, oh, they're still finding themselves. There's no room to play that game anymore. So now I do kind of hate all the characters. When I watched the Witchfinders, I didn't yet. I was just so numb about it. But Alan Cumming was funny.
He is. I'm glad Alan Cumming is finally in Doctor Who. I wish he was in a better episode of Doctor Who.
Yes.
It is a. I don't want to say it's a waste of Alan Cumming because they do make substantive use of him. Obviously, he's not minor in the episode, but you could also tell that story without that character very easily.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. It makes Empress of Mars look like a goddamn masterpiece.
Oh yeah. But before we move on, there are three things I want to zoom in on that episode. And then we can move on to It Takes You Away, because I don't think there's that much to talk about with the Witchfinders, but I just want to talk about these three things. And you can add some if you think of anything you want to say. One, the opening of that episode. How bizarre is it to watch an episode of Doctor Who where you are legitimately questioning whether or not the Doctor is going to save this person? Or even try, like, because the Doctor doesn't. But there is, the beginning of that episode is a witch, I mean, quote-unquote witch, obviously it's just like a normal woman, being ducked and dies, and the TARDIS crew arrives and is seeing, like, in the middle of this whole ducking and her being ducked into the lake, and the Doctor's like, no, we can't affect history, it's and there's this moment where I'm like, this version, like, when the Doctor then eventually is like, okay, no, I guess I'll try to help even though it's too late and the woman is actually dead, I was like, no, I actually don't believe that she would do that. I, like, legitimately, this version of the character, it is more believable to me that she would just stand there and watch this woman be unjustly drowned for being a quote-unquote witch, then try to save her. And it was such a startling revelation for me that's like how that's how this episode opens, and I felt like this actually isn't the right direction for the character, quote unquote right direction. It's not the most believable direction for the character to take, based on where we have been so far this season. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I mean, I see the reason I didn't bring this up already, Sean, is I think as a coping mechanism, I'm blocking things out already. I came to a realization watching the finale of two key things, and I'll preview them now because they're relevant to this discussion. One is that this season of Doctor Who feels like it was written by a sociopath to me. It feels like it was written by someone who not only does not have an understanding of morality or emotion, but, like, chemically cannot understand morality or emotion. And I am not saying Chris Chibnall is a sociopath. I don't want anyone to quote me on that. He is not. He's a fine person, I'm sure. And he has written stuff that understands morality and emotion in really interesting ways. This season feels like it was written by a sociopath. Am I right?
Yes, I think I said this like several episodes ago, probably around Arachnids in the UK, that it feels like my version of Commander Shepard from Mass Effect, that I roleplayed as a person who was broken and couldn't understand morality, but made a like sort of almost like mathematical choice to be the most quote unquote moral he could to justify making the Paragon choice every time. That is 100% what it feels like.
Yes. Second, and I came to this realization watching the finale. And this, more than anything else, Sean, is why I am so depressed today, why I am so depressed about the show right now, is that for the first time in the history of the series, I came to a moment where the thought went through my mind, I don't like the Doctor.
Yep, I agree.
I don't like this character. I do not like this incarnation of the character. I think I like Jodie Whittaker as a performer. It's not her. Because It Takes You Away has a moment that is the closest she's come to being the Doctor for me. And I shouldn't say her. It's the closest the writing has allowed her to come. Is that a fair way to say it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually am at a point where it's so hard for me to tell, like, if they're, because honestly, like, with it, I know the scene you're talking about, and for me, and It Takes You Away, it didn't do much for me. Okay. So I'm at a point where, like, I'm really not even sure if, even given, like, really great stuff, how good Jodie Whittaker's version of the Doctor would be.
It's a tremendously one-note performance, and we'll get into it. It's just... I feel like we don't have like the neutral other tests. Like we only have bland one-dimensional material. So I would feel wrong as a critic to put that on her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. It's just like at this point in the season, I'm so in the fucking muck with it that it is hard for me to just like. I think it's like it's kind of almost impossible to judge her performance. And that's like where it's at.
But I don't like this Doctor. And reading back onto the Witchfinders, it's like, I don't want to watch a fun sci-fi show where the main character watches a witch drowning and hesitates. I don't want to watch that. If you had a Captain America movie that started with, like, what if Captain America the Winter Soldier, you know, where he's running around the lake and he keeps meeting Falcon, whatever his name? Yeah. And that's a really fun scene. If that scene included a moment where as Captain America is running, he hears someone yelling, "Help, help," and sees someone drowning in the fucking pool, and he looks over there and he's like, huh. And he just waits and waits until she goes under the water. And then he dived in, got her body out, and said, couldn't save her. I don't think I'd like Captain America. I don't think that movie would work for me if that was the moral compass you gave this person. It is a monstrous sociopathic thing she does to kick off that episode. And the worst thing is it really feels like the people writing the show have no awareness of how that reads to us.
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing where there have been moments where the Doctor has sort of done something like this. Like think about like Fire in Pompeii is a good example of where like he's unsure of how much he can save people in this like historical moment in its fixed point in time and all that. Like there are moments where the show has played with that. Or like I was thinking about this, like one of the darker versions of something kind of like this is, I think it's The Woman Who Waited, the one where there's two versions of Amy, one who is like from this like alternate future where she's like in that hospital like for 20 years or something, and the current version of Amy, and he has to kind of sacrifice this alternate future Amy. And so there's like moments where the Doctor does stuff that is dark and maybe immoral or like plays with it because of weird time bullshit. But the show always contrasts it with one, the Doctor is trying to be heroic and has like directly heroic good things that the Doctor is generally doing to make it so that when there's this other scenario, it feels like a little bit of a break from the character's normal moral standpoint. It's an aberration, and it's like a tear in the character's moral fabric that you can get into and explore some question, which is what Fire in Pompeii does, and it's a great fucking episode because it is playing with all those themes and those ideas. And the thing that's so appalling about this season of Doctor Who is the Doctor never at any point, now that we're 10 episodes in, legitimately feels heroic. The Doctor at no point in this season to me feels like, oh, like this is a character that really is willing to stand up for something that she believes in and is willing to like go out there and help the universe and help the people who need it. She's never that kind of figure. And so the Witchfinder thing of her deciding to help the lady, even though, again, it's too late and the woman has drowned, the decision that she even makes to try to help her, that feels like the aberration in this weird way. That feels like, oh, the character's trying to be marginally proactive in some way. That felt strangely like a break from the general like existence that she had. It was so strange.
The whole thing, yeah. It's bad. Okay, what are the other two things about the Witchfinders?
The other two things. The scene between the Doctor and King James where she's like tied up and they have the heart-to-heart, which was... I think it's a decent scene. It's the best scene in the episode.
Yeah,
it's
it was fine.
It's also like reminded me of how terrible the season is. That's the only scene like that we have in the whole fucking season. That is just a low-key moment that is like kind of in the middle of the episode where there's not a lot of plot pressure that allows the Doctor and another character to talk. That where the Doctor is not yelling, because that's, again, this is one of the areas where it's hard for me with like the Jodie Whittaker thing, is she is kind of yelling for most of the performance, and a lot of that is the writing, that she has to run around all over the place. But it's this weird thing of like, when you like, she just doesn't ever stop and talk to fucking anybody, and it was just reminded me in that moment that's like, oh my god, she's actually talking to a character, and it's like a normal-ish conversation that you'd expect in most other episodes of Doctor Who, either between the Doctor and a companion about like the themes or issues of the episode, or the Doctor and in this case the villain of the episode or villain-esque figure of the episode talking about the themes and issues. And it's the only one of those scenes we got in the entire season, and it's just kind of decent.
I would say there's the other one, which is the scene with the frog.
Okay, sure. Again, that scene didn't work for me that well, but we'll talk about that.
We'll get there, yeah.
And then the third thing I want to talk about, which is like not really a thing that needs to be talked about, but it's just an example of like some of the terrible, just like sort of like filmmaking of some of these episodes, is there is that part at the beginning of the third act of the episode where I think it's Graham, I forget who, but one of our characters gets knocked out and wakes up, and then I think Yaz just has to explain what is basically like what would have in an old episode of Doctor Who been like part 3 of a classic Doctor Who serial, like, oh yeah, that character showed up, knocked you out, and then she took all these people and she went over to the tree and blah 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 blah, and it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it feels like you just didn't know how to go transition from Act 2 to Act 3, so you just knocked a character unconscious and just transitioned like off screen basically, and then woke them up. It's like, what the fuck just happened? It's such an awkward piece of filmmaking.
Yeah.
It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. This season of Doctor Who looks very expensive on the screen because the sets are clearly like expensive sets. It feels cheap in that there is so little skill or craft going into the filmmaking for the most part. There's been, like, I thought Demons of the Punjab was well made.
Yeah, me too.
But again, I don't know where the intersection is here between writing and directing, and that if you have nothing to direct, are you going to be able to do good directing? I don't know. If you are Jodie Whittaker and you have nothing to play, can you be a good actor? I don't know. It's really legitimately hard to suss these things out, right?
Yeah.
All right, but that's the Witchfinders. Fuck it. Okay, it takes you away. The next episode. I will say this, Sean. If nothing else, this episode I perked my ears up at the beginning like a rabbit. Like I'm hearing, like, is that ambition? Is that tone? Is that theme? Is that an idea? Is that character development? And it did all those things. It didn't always do them well, but it did all those things. It had an idea. It tried to go somewhere Doctor Who maybe has not exactly been before. It felt like a Big Finish story to me, honestly.
Yes.
More.
Yeah.
And it felt like a Big Finish story that would have been better if it was done in the Big Finish format of like 4 episodes, the way Classic Who is done, and they're able to break it up and let everything sit for a little longer and be, because it even kind of has those breaks where I would see like the Big Finish theme song would come in and then you would go to the next one, you know?
Yeah.
Which Big Finish uses not because they have to. No one is they don't air Big Finish stories. They do it because it's a way to tell a story that allows for pace and, you know, building and falling and rising action. But yeah, I mean, it's basically a Big Finish story. Okay, let me put it this way. It feels like the rough first draft of a really good Big Finish story.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are parts of it that are incredibly clunky. There are parts of it that don't work for me much at all. And then there are parts that I was surprised at how much I liked it. I was surprised at how much I was moved at the end by Ryan calling Graham Granddad. And I think it's not because they did a great job with those characters this season. They didn't. But I think it was because I have some residual affection from just watching 9 hours of television with these people, and this is the first episode that attempted to leverage it. And by attempting to leverage it, it got something out of me. It didn't make me cry or anything. It's not heaven sent. But I was like, that's sweet. And I felt more human emotion than I have this season. Same with the scene with the frog. And that is the one moment to me this season, Sean, where the Doctor was called upon and rose to the occasion of being empathetic and something approaching heroic. Like, not she saved the world, but she had a heart-to-heart with this being and felt like I saw the Doctor in there for a minute or two. And I didn't see, like, when the Doctor is failing to save the person at the witch drowning, I cannot see Peter Capaldi or John Pertwee or Tom Baker in that face. I cannot. In the frog scene, I could see it. And it's kind of the one moment this scene where it happened for me. So, and I also I liked that it got weird, and I liked some of its conversations about grief. I did not like I think it was 75-minute long technobabble monologue by the Doctor in the middle about what the alternate universe is. That went on for fucking ever, and I could not tell you a goddamn thing she said, because for some reason they decided that the Doctor talks like Geordie LaForge from Star Trek this season, and it's a very weird decision, but it's also like 10th on the list of weird decisions this season. But yeah, so some of it worked, some of it didn't. It is, to me, easily the best episode of the season.
Yeah, I think I would say The Demons of the Punjab is the best episode, with the asterisks that it's like the worst part about it is that it's a Doctor Who episode. If you're picking what is the best episode of this season that feels like it critically is a Doctor Who episode, then yes, it is definitely Takes You Away, because those are like unquestionably, I think, the two best.
No, I did my joke tweet yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, where I said, here's the episodes ranked, and I said 1 is It Takes You Away, 2 is Demons of the Punjab, 3 to 9 are Who Gives a Fuck, it's all one soulless blur, and then 10 is Kerblam. Except now I think I would put the finale at 10, but whatever.
I would still keep Kerblam down there. Fuck that fucking episode. I mean, it's a much more competently made episode in almost every single way. But that fucking ending, fuck that episode.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, back to It Takes You Away. Because I basically agree with almost everything you said, like, other than some of the reaction to the frog thing, that for me, I bet I would like it more upon a rewatch, but that scene that you pointed out of the technobabble scene, or just like the exposition scene, is one of the most ham-fisted, awkward, clumsy pieces of fucking exposition I think I've ever seen in Doctor Who. It just drop-kicked me the fuck out of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't care about anything anymore, because the idea of you go through, you do the whole opening bit with the girl Hannah in the house, and then going into the mirror thing, and then you have this whole long section that was kind of cool in a like weird dark crystal-y kind of way while you were in it, but then ultimately feels kind of pointless in the anti-zone in the middle, and then you come out and you're in the mirror universe, and it's like, oh, the episode's starting now that we're in the mirror world. Like, this is clearly what the episode's trying to be. And then that's the moment where the Doctor just goes on like a 5-minute fucking meth-fueled rant about the soul attract, which I had to look all the shit up again before this conversation, because it's been a week since I watched this episode. It's like the soul attract, which is another universe that was born when our universe was born, and this is a legend that my like 7th grandmother told me. It's like this. It's this so absurd bit of exposition to just drop in about a mirror universe that was born at the beginning of the universe, that our universe excised because it was an evil sentient universe, and that universe is now trying to get into our universe and has used like a phantom projection of this guy's dead wife to lure him here. And it's just like, this is like, Doctor Who can make me like accept some really dumb shit with relatively minimal effort. You have to do a lot more work to set up this concept, which makes no fucking sense, especially if where you want to go with the concept is the Doctor befriending a talking frog and then telling the talking frog that actually we can't be together, I have to be in my own universe. Like, normally I'm all for a scene with the Doctor talking to a talking frog, but there has to be it has to signify something for me. It can't just be nothing, because I feel like that scene, if it was the exact same scene, but instead of turning into a talking frog, it was anything mildly logical, nothing about that scene would be that remarkable. And it'd just be like, oh, whatever. It's only because it's so bizarre that there's a talking frog that anyone even would sit up and take notice, because it's like, oh, I guess I have to pay attention to this moment because it's so audacious that you'd put this weird talking frog in this chair. But if you actually think about anything of how that moment is set up, it just means nothing, and it's just so much wasted effort, like getting to this point of like what would have been a good ending scene for an episode if the episode had built up properly to that moment, and it just so doesn't.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to defend it. It's, it worked in the moment. I'm probably never going to watch it again. Fuck it.
Yeah. And then it ends with the culmination of the season arc, which is, of course, Ryan and Graham becoming family again, and it ends with Ryan saying to Graham, the granddad, and then the season was over, right, Jonathan? Because that is the story of this season. We can now definitively say the story of this season was Graham becoming family with Ryan and getting over his grief of Grace. That's this whole season. That's the closest you get to any character arc, and it is resolved at the end of it. Takes you away.
Yeah, I guess. When was the last time Graham and Ryan didn't get along before that, though? Like
episode 4, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to hang your thematic hat on when they seemed totally fine with each other for most of the... Like, he wasn't calling him granddad, but also, he's not his granddad. He was married to his grandma for, like, a year.
Yeah, his, like, year-old, or, like, year-long step-grandfather for a guy who... He's a man. Like, he's not, like, 14 years old. He's,
Ryan's
like, 20 or something.
An adult man. Like, I don't know. I have a stepdad. My mom remarried. We didn't have like a troubled period where it was like, aren't you going to call me Pops, son? Because I'm 26.
Exactly.
It's not what adults do.
You're not an 8-year-old.
Yeah, and even if I was, be a little weird for him to be that hung up on it. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. But again, it's the closest I came to feeling human emotion this season other than just depression or anger. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it is definitively, like, that has to be what the season arc is. Like quote-unquote season arc. That's the character arc. That's the only thing that is different.
Because the Doctor and Yaz have no character arc whatsoever. They're not even a hint of one. Ryan, I would argue, really has no arc other than accepting Graham. That's done for him there. You could argue Graham has a little more in the last episode because they force it in the last episode, even though nothing we have known about Graham in the first 9 hours suggests he would be vengeful or particularly care about killing anyone. But they do introduce that. So Graham has the most character arc. Ryan is the asterisk on Graham's character arc. And then Yaz and the Doctor have no character arc whatsoever, which, again... Even if you, I don't know, throw a dart at a season of fucking Law and Order and it probably has more character development going on in it. And they don't even have continuity between episodes.
Yeah. I mean, because it is, the other point I'm trying to get at with this is that though, like, that character arc is resolved effectively at the end of It Takes You Away. Because there are a couple of moments, and again, this is all basically the Chibnall stuff. Because once you get out of Chibnall, there's basically no, like, those episodes could be ordered in any order and it wouldn't fucking matter, other than this one, obviously. But you have, at least in, like, Arachnids in the UK, you have that moment where Graham goes back home and has to deal with, and, like, the phantasmal projection in his mind of Grace is there. Like, it tries to address that a little bit. And then that episode also... Actually, now I'm just realizing that there is this whole thread in those episodes, some, like, fucking memory just sparked of Ryan's dad that this also brings up again, but that thread is not resolved. It's not really dealt with again after it's brought up early and It Takes You Away.
No, Ryan decides to be a dick to the blind little girl because his dad left, so all dads are bad, so you're stupid kid for wanting a dad.
Yeah.
Which that's how adults act.
Yeah, and that just kind of was dropped. But other than that, like, it's Graham sort of trying to be a good grandfather to Ryan and trying to deal with the death of Grace, which It Takes You Away brings up and resolves. And then the finale decides, well, let's just do that again. Because the finale, that's just what the finale is again. Because the Doctor has no character arc. Yeah, sure as shit has no character arc. So it's like the main emotional thrust of the finale is the grief that Graham has over Grace's death is brought up again, and he has to resolve it again. And over the course of that, Ryan has to accept him as a grandfather, which is the exact same fucking thing that happened in It Takes You Away.
Yeah.
Only It Takes You Away did it a lot better.
All right, then let's talk about the finale, Sean, because good God, what an anemic piece of shit this was. And like every Chibnall episode, it started out like, there could have been an idea there. They go to a planet, it's mysterious, it's not a new idea, but it's something you could build on, that there's a mysterious planet, and, like, people, like, are not grounded, and they have to use, like, the emotion blocker. You could make a good Doctor Who episode out of that, right?
Oh, yes,
like,
yes.
Yeah, and it's pretty well directed, and I'm like, is there gonna be... And then, no. The story is that there's these people called the UGG, or whatever they're fucking called. I couldn't understand, because I think every time Chris Chibnall had to come up with a monster name this season, he had, like, a series of letters on a wall and threw darts at them, and then just took the letters he threw the darts at, and then that's the fucking stupid-ass character name he came up with. And they've done something, and then Tim Shaw, who... Let's just take a step back, Sean. The big bad, quote-unquote, of this season of Doctor Who was a blue alien with teeth in his face named Tim Shaw.
He only appeared in the first episode and the last episode of the season, yes.
Yeah. Why are critics giving a pass to this fucking season? It's good God, man. Good God.
Yep.
God. It's whatever. Okay. Tim Shaw is back. Tim Shaw, who in his last appearance was just some rookie recruit, I think, who had to prove his badassness by killing someone on Earth, is now trying to destroy the entire universe or something like that. And the UGG, because they can manipulate matter, are able to, I guess, just destroy the massive things, because just science just does not matter this season.
Oh, it's just the Doctors has a line about, these rocks have, like, an impossible density, so everything's good. The science checks out.
Okay. Yeah, and then Tim Shaw, for some reason, had to take a bunch of planets, commit planetary genocide, turn them into little rocks that I guess power a bigger rock that will allow him to destroy the Earth or something. And even though he committed genocide against 5 or 6 different planets, they think the best thing to do with Tim Shaw is not kill him, not take him to authorities, just lock him in one of his own pods, and hope he never gets out, even though he is like Space Hitler times a billion. And you feel like the Doctor would want to do something more definitive about that, and that, maybe killing this guy actually would not be the worst thing in the world, considering he killed literally billions upon billions of people in the course of this episode. But we're not going to think about that, because this Doctor is not so concerned in morality.
Yeah, I think that mostly covers it. I'm trying to think of, like, because here's part of, like, the really peculiar shit. There's a lot of peculiar shit in this episode, but the UGG, or whatever they're called, because I also did not catch that name well. It's got to be written somewhere, but
she says it a million times.
Yes, but they are a race that of, like, 2 people. And that's, like, I guess at any given point, there's only 2 members of that race. I figure out how that works, and they're, I guess, mostly immortal, and they have, like, magic telekinetic powers, which are so powerful that they can reduce planets to the sizes of little tiny rocks and seal them in big, weird crystal thingies. I don't fucking know. And they have some sort of religious belief about an omniscient creator god, and Tim Shaw, even though the Doctor says, I have set your thing to send you home at the end of the first episode of this season, actually it sent him to this random planet that just happened to have 2 god beings on it, and who mistook him for being their god being. And this is part of one of the places where I'm very confused. Is Tim Shaw immortal? Or did these people make him immortal? Because he lives on that planet for like 3,000 years.
Don't think about it, Sean. Chris Chibnall didn't.
I mean, he lives on that planet for 3,000 years. There's nothing that says the Stins... maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe this is mentioned at some point, that the Stins are fucking immortal. He lives on that planet for 3,000 years after having DNA bombs blown up inside him, which, by the way, Yaz seems to think that Tim Shaw would have died from that, even though when you fell to Earth, clearly states this, like, no, he's going to live, it's just going to hurt, even though that directly contradicts how the DNA bombs are stated to work. But all that shit's already a mess. But he's alive, he's been made immortal, and I feel like the only reasonable explanation is that these other people that have these godlike powers have made him immortal. But if you have to make this guy immortal, maybe he's not your fucking god. Like, it's just...
Sean, this is one of the few episodes of television I've ever seen where I would honestly tell you nothing made sense. Not a single thing that happens in this episode made sense to me. Not one goddamn thing. I could not tell you any piece of this plot I found coherent, let alone interesting or compelling or, any sort of use to the world. But, that made no sense. the entire, like, most of the episode, the majority of this hour-long fucking episode is the Doctor and friends running around trying to stop this demon ray thing from going off with all these rocks, even though we have no connection to the villain. The Doctor has no connection to the things going on. We don't even mention that 6 billion people were killed on all these different fucking planets. Like, it is so crazy bad, and it ends in just an unstoppable orgasm of technobabble, where the Doctor is using the TARDIS and the psychic links and your powers and blah, 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 and it's just Jodie Whittaker running around yelling about, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and you're brilliant, and yay! And that's it, and that's all they're having to do, and it's so stupid, and it makes no sense, and I felt like the goddamn scene in A Clockwork Orange where I'm Malcolm McDowell and they've sealed my eyes open to watch just inane bullshit to just brainwash me. It's awful.
Yeah, there's one of like the key plot components of this episode is the woman from the God race, starting to lose her faith in Tim Shaw because Tim Shaw recognizes the Doctor from somewhere, and it's brought up multiple times of like, how does he recognize it? How does he know? It's like, isn't he supposed to be your creator God? Like, how is that? Like, why is that so shocking that he should know this or recognize or want to interact with in some way this strange alien woman that came out of fucking nowhere? Like, how is that what shakes your fucking faith? Is that your omniscient God knows something? Like, it's
insulting. It's genuinely insulting to watch TV that has this little regard to the audience's intelligence. I've never seen anything like it. That is this. Just, you are a stupid lemming who will run off the cliff if we tell you to, so we can give you literally nothing. We can just throw words at a wall. This could have been written by monkeys with typewriters. It doesn't matter.
There's effectively no effort made in creating any sort of like coherent sense of world building. Like, the rules of anything that happens in this episode is so fungible and blah. Like, it's just bizarre. And I think for me, the most sort of offensive moment in the episode, not from like some sort of political perspective, but just from a like writing and dramatic structure perspective, that is maybe the most like condensed, in some ways iconic version of Chris Chibnall's flaws as a writer, is the scene where it's the Doctor and Yaz. Because this is an episode where the A-plot of all, like, the main plot mechanics are all foisted on Doctor and Yaz, and all the emotional character stuff, for what little exists, is all foisted on Graham and Ryan, and then never the twain shall meet. It's not a great way to fucking structure plot, is to take all the characters and put it on one end, and take all the plot and put it on the other end. Not a great way to do it anyways. That's already terrible. But there's that one scene where the Doctor and Yaz are encountering the God people, and the guy is shooting the death space ray to shrink Earth or whatever, and the Doctor's very flusteredly because like that's like the one thing that they ever write the Doctor do is like shout things out in an out of breath fashion. It's like, but if I do this thing, but what if I do, and that's like her whole fucking thing. And she's trying to figure out, how do I solve the scenario? And the solution she comes up with is, we have the neural blocker things that we have on our heads because this planet is like a psychic field or something that will attack your psyche and make you forget things and make you hallucinate or whatever. So we have those on. But what if I sonic these things, because this Doctor overuses the sonic more than any other Doctor, and sonic these things and then put them on the alien God people, and that will block their neural thing from transmitting because I've like changed the whatever. And they do that, and she says, but if we do this, Yaz, it means that we will be like vulnerable to the planet, and the planet will be able to attack our minds, I think is what she literally says. And so they take those patches off and put it on the God people, and that stops them. And then they have like a 2-minute conversation where the Doctor convinces them that, Tim Shaw is not actually a god, because no fucking shit.
His name is Tim Shaw.
His name is Tim Shaw. He's a guy who arrived on this planet half fucking dead, who is blue and has teeth in his face. Religion doesn't normally make sense to me, but religion makes more sense to me than what the fuck you guys are doing. And so she basically convinces them that not to worship Tim Shaw, and then at the end of that conversation, she's like, and she takes the mental blocks off them and puts it back on her head.
The line specifically, Sean, is she says, I'm starting to get a headache. What about you, Yaz? Oh, okay, let's get the patches back.
Yeah. And that is the most absurdly backwards, terrible fucking dramatic writing you could possibly find. It's this let's introduce this. They spend 5 minutes at the beginning, 10 minutes at the beginning of the episode, setting up all this shit with finding the guy who can't remember anything, and she has all the technobabble bullshit on the TARDIS at the beginning about why we need these patches and talking, and it's nonsense and it's terrible, telling and not showing bullshit, and they spend all that time setting all that up. And you get to this moment where they have to take the patches off. They specifically signpost that this is dangerous, and this is going to be... They basically signposted as a turning point in the episode where maybe the Doctor is going to be under attack from some forces. Maybe the Doctor is going to have to stand up for something and do something. And she takes the thing off, and then she just puts it back on and nothing happens. And it's how... it feels like everything about that, basically the entire opening of the episode was retroactively written to write Chris Chibnall out of, how do I stop this guy shooting a psychic beam at Earth? Oh, I'll put in a neuroblocker. Oh, well, I guess I need to write in the neuroblocker at the beginning. I guess I need to introduce this character to set up how the neuroblocker works. And he never thought about the potential interesting development, which is the Doctor having to solve this problem while she is hallucinating and her mind is under attack from forces of this planet. That's an episode of Doctor Who. An episode of Doctor Who is not, let me sonic this thing, oh, everything is fine. Because that's what that's the whole fucking plot of this episode is, let me sonic this thing and everything is fine. Because that's the only thing Chris Chibnall can fucking write.
I think you've hit on it. This season is the laziest cosplay ever done. Because it is, one, it's all surfaces. And it is surfaces that has no interest in going beyond that. But even when you're just looking at the surface level, it can't even get the surface level right. Because the story, as you say, would be the Doctor on a planet struggling with, losing her mind or something. That would be a story. But you do a lot of plot, which is the Doctor sonics this and the Doctor sonics that. And it's this feels like it was written by A, a sociopath, B, someone who just saw some clips of Doctor Who on YouTube with the sound off and saw that the Doctor waves around a magic wand sort of thing sometimes. So oh, the Doctor is like a fucking wizard with the wand and can just do the thing with the wand, and that's every Doctor Who story, right? Oh God, it's so bad and insulting. Man.
It's fucking atrocious. And so that's the plot of the episode.
Yeah.
Covered that. That's what the Doctor has to do in this episode. It's also what Yaz has to do in this episode. So let's talk about the actual plot of the episode, the actual meat, if there is any, which is Graham's story. I was going to say Graham and Ryan's story.
It's not Ryan's story.
It's just Graham's story. So Graham has this whole thing of where they find out that Tim Shaw's alive, and he pulls the Doctor aside and has that one-to-one, which was another one of oh my God, the Doctor's and the companion are talking one-on-one. This is the second time this has happened in the whole season.
Sean, there's that moment where Graham says, oh, Doc, can I talk to you? And she's like, oh, sure, Graham. And he's like, no, I need to talk to you alone. And everyone looks so stunned, two people would talk to each other? You wouldn't just all go around in a group of 4 people at all times? What?
And so they have this fucking one-on-one, which is maybe the old... I would have to think about this a little bit longer. That legitimately might be the only time the Doctor and Graham have ever had a one-on-one conversation. That's probably not true. I think it happened in Rosa at one point, but it's the second or third time they've ever had a one-on-one conversation. And Graham just has this thing where he's I'm gonna kill Tim Shaw. And at this moment I was yeah, fucking go ahead, Graham. Fucking just kill that guy. And this is just where I have I'm so done, is where the Doctor's no, you can't do that. You can't do that because you would be as bad as him. It's no, Graham wouldn't. No, I don't think Graham would be as bad as Tim Shaw, destroyer of 7 worlds, if he killed Tim Shaw. I think that Graham would still be better than Tim Shaw in that situation. And it's it's the most fucking 8-year-old trying to do a Batman Joker story thing of oh, Batman can't kill Joker because then he'll be just like Joker. It's the thing that makes stories like that, the killing Joker, something interesting is it's more about the psychology of Batman and how Batman and the Joker are mirror images, and thus they cannot, like with the Dark Knight, they can't kill each other because the Batman killing Joker is tantamount to Batman killing himself because it's a psychological bullshit thing. There's story substance going on to make that work. It's not about the actual moral equation, because the moral equation is Batman is better than the Joker, even if Batman would kill the Joker. and maybe especially if Batman killed the Joker, he's better than the Joker, right? Like, there is no, you'd be just as bad as Tim Shaw if you killed this immortal guy who you blew up 5 bombs inside of him, Doctor, and who is teleported to the end of this like weird planet and is enslaved to like weird god people and has killed fucking 7 worlds worth of people. Fucking kill him, it's fine. That's where I'm at. Fucking kill him, it's totally fine.
I mean, let's break this down, Sean. Look, the Doctor is not a character who goes around indiscriminately killing people, obviously. The Doctor is not a character who would generally be in favor of his or her companions going around killing people, obviously. And yet, they have miswritten the Doctor to such an astonishing degree that they got to a point in this episode where the Doctor urged a companion not to do a revenge killing, and it ringed false. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine any other circumstance? Because that's the thing, you're kind of making fun of it here, but like, legitimately, there have been moments like this, and normally it would not ring false. It would not feel like none of this makes sense. The Doctor doesn't mean this. You're a goddamn hypocrite, Doctor. I don't believe you have actual emotions. Like, that's what it feels like there. I can totally see it, because this has happened in other scenes and other stories in Doctor Who history where the Doctor would have to say, like, no, we have to find a better way. But it would ring true because the Doctor would have interiority and a sense of morality and a sense of philosophy about the world. And the companion would have a sense of those things. And the world would seem to have some kind of moral consistency to it. But this is just like naive and stupid and meaningless and insulting to our intelligence. And the ultimate solution they come up with is legitimately irresponsible. Just like it's immoral because, again, it's like if in World War II, Hitler didn't die in the bunker and they found him in the bunker and they just said, let's just lock the bunker and hope he never gets out. And we'll just leave him here and hope no one else in Germany comes and lets Hitler out of the bunker because all you have to do is press a goddamn button. Let's just leave him there. That's fine. Don't have to put him in prison. Don't have to execute. No. Yeah, it's so stupid. It's
even worse than that. And this is the moment where I fully turned. It was like, I hate this version of this character. I hate this Doctor. Is late it's like 1 or 2 scenes after that. They're on the beach and they're about to teleport up in there, and the Doctor takes out these bombs and is like, oh, we're going to use these. I have like 5 bombs here. And then Ryan points out very rightly, I thought we don't take weapons, Doctor. That's your whole thing. And she's like, oh no, these bombs are like versatile. I can use them for other things. And Ryan says, no, but you said I couldn't use the gun to shoot the robots that are machines. He says, oh, and the Doctor just says, oh no, that's just because you were a newbie and I had to lay down the rules. And that's the moment where I'm like, if I was Ryan, I would just say, fuck you. Fuck off, you condescending piece of shit. What? No, you can't just do that. You self-righteous fucking hypocrite. What the fuck are you talking about? It's like, oh, you can't use weapons other than when I decide it's okay to use weapons. Fuck off. That's where Ryan just goes back to the TARDIS and fucking flips a bunch of switches and leaves all these assholes there because it's like, fuck this. You have got to be kidding me. That is your answer to this? That's your answer to your backwards ass fucking bullshit, not moral position throughout this whole season is, when I feel it's okay, I'll just kind of do it, but it's not okay for you newbies. It's like, what the fuck are you? That's not morality. That's not a position. That doesn't come from anything. It just makes her feel like a fucking self-righteous prick.
Yeah, I agree. That was my breaking point as well. I was done with this version of the Doctor as soon as she said that, because they play it as like, this is a fun, charming moment, and she is like quirky and and no, it's stupid. It's petty, it's childish, it's disgusting on the level of just, as you say, like, they have been trying to build up, like, this Doctor refuses to use guns, but she actually didn't believe any of that, because you clearly didn't believe anything. She just tells us, I didn't really care about any of that. I hate it. I mean, should we talk about the Doctor now? Because I feel like that is the biggest discussion there is to have this season.
Yeah, because we just, like, covering those 2 points we just did, that is the whole episode. There's nothing else to talk about.
No. So, okay. I guess we can transition into, the bigger picture things here, which is where we are on the show right now. And I do think the most pressing thing is to talk about the Doctor. And I agree. I don't like this character, this incarnation of the Doctor. I don't know if I would say hate, because I don't know if I can feel emotions that deeply enough at this point about any of this. But I genuinely don't like it. I think the performance is bad. I don't know if that is because Jodie Whittaker is bad at performing, or if it is because she is not given the things that any human being could turn into a good performance. I think it's probably the latter if we're being like safe and responsible in what we are speculating about. I think it is the latter. But it, doesn't really matter. What comes across on screen to me is a bad, one-dimensional performance that has very little range to it, that is extremely repetitive, that has no interiority to it. Again, most of these things are in the writing. And I also think is a character who is not heroic in any discernible way, not someone I want to follow, someone who kind of puts me off a lot of the time with the positions she takes as a character, which there are certainly times in Doctor Who history where the Doctor does something you are meant to be uncomfortable with, but it is part of the text, it is part of the story, it is something that is dealt with. Like, this was a consistent thing throughout Peter Capaldi's run, is the Doctor doing things that were questionable or we weren't sure how to feel about them, and then they directly interrogated that. That's fine. That is totally okay to do. But the stuff like in Kerblam or in Arachnids in the UK or this, where the Doctor is genuinely doing and saying and arguing for morally toxic positions, and the show just cannot put the two shits of effort worth into thinking about that, is so off-putting that, yes, we have gotten to... Doctor Who has been through a lot of rough patches and dark times. There has never been a point where you've had to hit the last break glass in case of emergency, which is, we have a bad Doctor. We've never gotten to the point of break the glass, we have a bad Doctor. We have a bad Doctor.
Yeah, we do. Like like you said, it's impossible to it's very possible to say the writing is fucking awful, but it's impossible to then judge the performance because there's just no room, there's no space to judge the fucking performance in. But it is just, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to be in this position, particularly like when you think about how excited we were at the end of Twice Upon a Time when we got that little scene and then all the promotional material, and it seemed like the casting was fucking golden and the costume is great and all of that, and it was so exciting. And then we get here and there's just the most facile understanding of the character. It's all quirk and no substance. It's all name drop, name drop, name drop. I don't know how many times over the course of this season the Doctor has done the fucking thing that weak Doctor Who writers lean on in modern Doctor Who to write dialogue for the character, which is the, mention a thing and say, oh, I love that thing. I used to do that thing with this guy. And I used to do that. I used to have, I love couches. Love me a couch. I used to have 5 couches in ancient Rome. Oh, I love I love coins. I used to have an ancient Byzantine coin with my pal Einstein. Every fucking episode, she does that 5 times because it's the only thing that writers can think to do with the quirky Doctor Who writing that, again, I think really weak Doctor Who writers would lean on in RTD and Moffat years, but RTD and Moffat would very rarely do, and if they did it, it would be executed elegantly in a way that caused other people to start doing that kind of dialogue structure. But that's the only thing she has. She has no moments where she is heroic. She has no moments where she stands for anything or represents anything. She's a character that is so stands for the status quo and for inaction, which is not a particularly Doctor Who-ish trait at all, but it's especially not the Doctor Who we need in 2018. It's the exact opposite version of the character that we need now. I think we need a much more radical version of the character standing for more radical values in a time where we need those more radical values represented in our media, because we're in terms of the people who have power in our society, we are in an incredibly conservative and destructive and fascistic mode, and we need something pushing against that. And the Doctor is the exact character that should be doing that. So all of that stuff is extraordinarily frustrating. The other stuff that we need to talk about is her being the first female version of this character. And obviously everything we have to say is asterisk with we're 2 white dudes. And so that perspective color covers everything we have to say about the gender stuff. But I can feel pretty confident at this point saying I think that this is one of the most politically regressive episodes that it is the most politically regressive season that Doctor Who has produced in modern Doctor Who. It thinks that representation and diversity of representation is all you need to do, and it doesn't have to represent any deeper politics underneath that. And it certainly doesn't understand that you can't just cast a woman in the lead role of the character if over half the episodes in the season are written by a white guy. And at some point, I feel like some of the different character traits that this Doctor has that are particularly peculiar to this version of the character, which is her passivity and her like childish naivety and like kind of misunderstanding with it or lack of engagement with like any real morality, starts to feel strangely Victorian when you put it all together as like the gender thing and the gender construction of this character. That like it's the thing we always have to say, that it is often unfair to put an undue burden on a female protagonist or a protagonist that is a person of color because of that position that they have in terms of like representing that identity in media, and it feels unfair to put that burden on them. And yet they have that burden on them, and this character has an extreme burden put upon her by being the first female version of the character that the marketing and the BBC and Chris Chibnall like used to try to sell the show, and like we're very upfront about that. But then when it comes to actually like paying up and standing up by those things and representing them in the actual writing and the actual TV show, not only did they fail to live up to that burden, I think they have fallen down underneath the burden and revealed ultimately, on the part of at the very least Chris Chibnall as a writer, a very, I think, kind of gender regressive performance of the character, and it's really it's profoundly disappointing to be at this point.
I agree, and I know we've been putting off this conversation because I think we wanted to see the full season, but it's also just a tough conversation to have, you know. Yeah. And one of the thoughts that went through my mind today watching it is, you know, this is the most diverse season of Doctor Who in terms of who they have in front of the camera, behind the camera, in terms of the writing staff they have, the people directing the show, the people doing the music for the show, a lot of the other like below-the-line names on the show, as well as just the cast is extremely diverse. There's only one, you know, white male actor in the main cast. Their guest casts were often very diverse. And that is good. That is good. That is a good thing for the industry to do that. But it does not count for enough if what you have on screen is not only lazy and insipid, but as you say, politically regressive. And it is politically regressive this season. And even if you take that out of the equation, Sean, name me a character who appeared on screen in Doctor Who Series 11 who is a tenth the character of Bill Potts last year.
There isn't one.
There isn't one. And everyone can shit all over Stephen Moffat if they want, but Stephen Moffat wrote a better representation of a diverse person last season than they managed to at any point this year. And I think Bill Potts in the arc of TV history is going to be a lot more meaningful to a lot more people who feel marginalized or different or just have an identity that is not on screen every day than anything they did this season. I would also say that about Martha from season 3. I would say that about Mickey from the first few seasons. I would say that about pretty much any woman who has ever been in Doctor Who. Any female companion, maybe not Perry. Even then, Perry has some interesting episodes. But, you know, you could go through the fucking laundry list of amazing women that have been on Doctor Who and been amazing, three-dimensional, empowering, interesting, diverse characters. There have been so many of them over 55 years. And the Doctor this season does not match up to any of them to me in trying to actually give a personality or an interiority or a sense of this is a three-dimensional human being with wants and desires and dreams and weaknesses and foibles. And if you can't do that for the Doctor, you have fucked up more than it is possible to say. And
absolutely.
And that's where I am with it. Like before, and that's all before you take into account any of the political or ideological stuff in this, which we should take into account. And I think you gave a very good reading of that just now. But I would also just say that, like, I don't want to just give Doctor Who a pat on the back this season for being more diverse on the surface when Doctor Who has done better by its characters who are not white men for literally the entirety of its history than it did this year. Literally the entirety of its history. It wrote women better in season 1, Unearthly Child, than it did the women this season. It just did.
Yeah, and I think in particular, if you're looking, because you don't have to go because this is season 11, and the immediate things we have to look at are Peter Capaldi's run, and the two major female characters we had there were Clara and Bill. And if you're looking at Doctor Who through a feminist critical lens, and I think Bill's is really strong, but I think Clara's, particularly in season 9, is a really remarkable story, and it's it is a direct critique and interrogation of the assumptions that Doctor Who has made, both in classic Doctor Who and in modern Doctor Who, about the role of the companion and how that role is gendered. And in particular, it's a direct kind of refutation of the ultimate direction that the Donna character went in with the mind wipe stuff. And season 9 story of Clara, and particularly that final 3-part of Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, and Hell Bent, is an extraordinarily feminist science fiction story.
Yes.
That undoes and overturns and critiques and deals with all kinds of tropes that Doctor Who has played in and most sci-fi fantasy media has played in, and has unfairly served their female characters through those tropes. And I just think that that's a remarkable story. And when you go from that, a story that ends with Clara not broken and turned into a soldier, like a lot of the RTD stuff, or left Love Lauren on some alien parallel world like Rose, or sort of not mind wiped like Donna, but leaves her in a position in comparison with and on toe with the Doctor, the main character of the show, in such a way that you could have the Clara Who spin-off, of her and me going about the galaxy. That's the way that episode fucking ends, is with the female character not being reduced and thrown aside, but being elevated to a position alongside the main character of the show that we've seen so far. When you put that juxtaposed with what they have actually done when they did have a female version of the character that is the main character of the show, it's appalling. And 2 fucking years later, and that's just skipping over Bill, which isn't fair, but I think the Clara one is the clearest representation of a feminist Doctor Who story. It's utterly appalling that we end up with this really strange, again, passive, strangely naive version of the character, which again are really Victorian gender stereotypes about women that are 100% still in our society. She does this sort of people pleaser kind of thing that is another gendered stereotype of an expectation that we put upon women in our society. And it's that thing where at the end of the day, the showrunner is a white dude, and at the end of the day, the person deciding the direction of the show, who wrote the majority of the episodes, that wrote the words that are coming out of Jodie Whittaker's mouth, is a middle-aged white guy. And so it is then no surprise to me that when you look at the season as a whole, that the story that we actually got this season, that features 4 main characters, a woman, a white woman, a woman of color, and a man of color, that the story we got this season was about the middle-aged white dude in the group, Graham, who has, in every single episode, has the most emotional material, has the most interesting stuff, is used most out of every other companion, sometimes more than the Doctor, it feels like, in certain episodes, and is at the heart of the only character development throughout the whole fucking season, which is motivated by the fridging of his wife. Yes. At the end of the day, when you break it down to what the real story of this season of Doctor Who was, it is the most stock standard white dude, ultimately fucking revenge thing. That's where we end up at in the season finale, is the white dude whose wife got fridged and is trying to get revenge for it, and ultimately decides to walk a better path, which is a generic fucking sci-fi story that you could get anywhere. And how is that where we ended up in this season? How is that where we are, Jonathan?
I don't know. The history of, Doctor Who does not have a perfect history, obviously, with any of these issues. How could it? It's been on for 55 years, and 1 million people have worked on it. But it has its highs and lows, and I think you did a good job there by using some of the lows of the Russell T Davies era, which I think had a lot of interesting stuff about, gender and masculinity, particularly him viewing the world of Doctor Who through the lens of being a gay man, and brought a lot of that in there in interesting ways. But yeah, he was able to write women well, often until the time they had to leave, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, as Rose went on, Rose in her first season is a pretty dynamic, interesting character. Rose in her second season is a lovelorn kid, who just wants to bone the Doctor, And so there are always highs and lows. Like Stephen Moffat, I think, gets written off for this because some of his early stuff with Amy is absolutely regressive. Amy is a really well-written character, with the asterisk that she's pretty heavily sexualized in ways that don't always pay off in any kind of character development, And and one of the interesting things I find about the Moffat years is that he gets so markedly better at writing women over those 6 years. Yeah. Like, the Moffat who wrote season 5 was not the Moffat who could have written Clara in seasons 8 and 9. He had to become that person. And Doctor Who had to become the show that could allow these things, right? And why this feels regressive is because it has a one-dimensional view of the entire world of the show, but it has a particularly regressive view of people. And I think that's what you're getting at here, is that when you get down to it, the only character the show really cares about, if you define caring about as giving interiority, emotional development, character development to, and I would say that's a pretty good definition of that, the only one it approaches caring about is Graham. It doesn't do a particularly good job caring about Graham, but it does seem to care about him. Bradley Walsh gets things to play. And that is not an upending of the status quo, as the show wants you to believe, because the lead is a woman now. It's actually a regression, and it reinforces a certain social status quo by making Graham the most important character and making everyone else window dressing on his story, including the Doctor who is now a woman. I remember when a couple of years ago we were talking about the idea that the Doctor might one day be a woman, and we were not sure how we felt about it because it could go wrong in so many ways, right? And I think we were younger and stupider then, and that's not a good reason not to do something. But one of the things we said is, like, what we were worried about is, like, well, what if some dickhead showrunner did something stupid, like giving her a pink sonic screwdriver and having her be, like, just coded in the most kind of asinine feminine ways, like the ways men exclusively view femininity, right? What if you did that? Weirdly, that's what we got. Yeah. It's just not the overt version of that. It's not the overt, she put glitter all over the TARDIS, right? It's not that version of men reducing women, but it's a different and frankly much more insidious one, where the Doctor is one-dimensional and bubbly and perky and quirky because that's what women are to Chris Chibnall, I guess, in this context. That's all he can imagine the Doctor to be. He cannot give her interiority. We cannot get inside the Doctor's mind because he cannot access her thoughts. He cannot try to imagine that this woman has interiority. There is a kind of sexism in just taking a female character, elevating them, and not trying to get inside their head. That's what bad male writers have done forever with women characters. And it does not seem as obviously disrespectful as something that is overtly sexist, but there is an insidious sexism to it. And I think you see that throughout, in that the Doctor is so simplified and so not allowed to have the things the other Doctors have, to have the things fictional characters leading stories have, which is interiority and character development and those sorts of things. And we have to cut her off from that, in part because she's a woman now. I don't know if it's 100%. I don't know if Chris Chibnall had, the nightmare scenario, continued to work with Peter Capaldi and what he would have written that Doctor as. But I imagine the way he wrote Graham is he would have tried harder. The Doctor would have had an arc if he had a penis, because there would have been some connection there. And that's not to say men can't write women. Again, we just talked about Stephen Moffat wound up being very good at it. Plenty of people are good at it. Chris Chibnall is very clearly not good at it, based on this season, if we're looking at this season as the test scenario. And so, yeah, I think that is where it has to come down, and it depresses me, because I'm depressed that we don't even know what the range of Jodie Whittaker is on this show, because whether she is good or bad in this part, she deserves as an actor, as a performer, the opportunity to try to have that range, and she did not get to have it this year. She was woefully underserved by the writing, and it is insulting to her, and it is insulting to the audience.
Yes, and in many ways, even more poorly served is our other female member of our main cast. Poor Yaz. Why was she even in this season? Jonathan, what is one thing that Yaz did in the finale of this season of Doctor Who?
I don't know. She followed the Doctor around and asked questions.
Yep. She followed the Doctor around and asked questions, which is the most, that's the most reductive way to describe, particularly classic Doctor Who companions is they follow the Doctor around and ask questions, which is, of many classic episodes of Doctor Who, that is a pretty fair criticism of use of that character, which is, contextualizing that time of the structure and stuff, but not entirely excusable. But it's certainly not excusable now, where Yaz just has no connection to anybody. She has, when was the last time that it came up that Yaz and Ryan were in fucking school together? Episode 3?
I think it came up in Kerblam. Not that it matters, but yeah.
It's just so remarkable that she became so sidelined, even in the episodes like Arachnis in the UK and Demons of the Punjab that are supposedly supposed to be Yaz's episodes that dive into her family history. She kind of doesn't really have anything to do with them. Her family members are the main characters of those episodes. She kind of vaguely reacts around the edges. She has nothing to do, nothing to play, no character, nothing. I think one of the reasons why It Takes You Away felt like one of the better episodes of the season is that every one of the characters had something relevant that they did that related to who they were. So it's even it was minor for Yaz, she used her police training that she learned of how to talk to, ask questions to children, to ask questions to the kid in the cabin. And, that was the best use that Yaz has had in this show. That is the best use that maybe Yaz has had in this show, other than, I guess, the first episode where the character is introduced, where it has to be a better use, because it would be impossible not to, because you have to introduce the character at least at a bare minimum level. Other than that, that was the only thing she did this whole season that felt informed by who she was in her past. And that's it. In 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's utterly pathetic. And as you say, yeah, you go through all this attempt to try to upend the status quo of Doctor Who to some sense, and you wind up with the most thinly written female companion ever. Would you put a Perry or a Mel? I mean, where? I
mean, Mel is the closest. I would say, yeah, I would put Perry above this. She's American, and so that's a characteristic, even if their accent doesn't sell it. And her name is Purple Gillian Brown. I mean, come on.
And Perry has some interesting. I could also tell you what Perry's relationship is with the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah, definitely.
It's they have a chemistry. They have an interesting exchange of personality going on. There's none of that with Yaz and the Doctor, so yeah, she's just kind of a nothing of a character. I mean, her existence allows for the existence of Demons of the Punjab, which is the only episode that meaningfully does anything with its diversity to try to look into the hearts and minds and experiences of other people who are not like Chris Chibnall. But that's and Yaz is not necessarily that important a part of that episode, so it's bizarre. Because none of the main characters are all that important to Demons of the Punjab.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It just doesn't work. And then Ryan is just, I don't know, he's there. He's a character. At one point, he had the thing with the bike, but we've forgotten about that a long time ago.
The dyspraxia thing didn't even come up in the last episode.
No, it's. I mean, this is all writing by, we will give them lines on a resume, we will not give them actual character traits.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan's biggest character trait, it ultimately feels like, is that he is Graham's grandson. That's just sort of where it ends up.
Again, it is all through the definitions of how do they relate to the middle-aged white guy. That is the only way this season of Doctor Who can see or conceive of the world.
Yes, and of course Yaz doesn't in any way, so she barely ever shows up.
Yep.
Remember when we talked about The Woman Who Fell to Earth and it felt like Ryan was going to be the main companion because he introduced that episode and he was instrumental to the exit of the episode?
Oh
with,
my God.
The whole vlog thing?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, where do we go from here, Sean? I mean, they announced today that Doctor Who. I mean, we know there's the New Year's special coming up,
which is probably going to have Daleks in it. That seems to be, there's rumors about it, and the trailer doesn't say Dalek, but it's like if Daleks are not in it, they fucked up something mighty with that trailer.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine this Doctor facing the Daleks. I have no idea what she would do. Like this Doctor,
give them a planet, like let them rule Earth. I don't know.
Yeah, like how does she fight the Daleks? Like how is that even possible? Like it's one of the most defining traits of the Doctor is that the Doctor is the guy that fights the Daleks, and then now it's like, how does this Doctor do it? What does this Doctor do when faced with Daleks? I have no idea.
No idea. All right. So then there is going to be, they've ordered a 12th season. Chibnall will be working on it. Jodie Whittaker will be there for it. Sounds like the cast is back. It will not air until 2020. They're taking a whole fucking year off. I mean, they're going to be working on it fairly soon, but apparently, I mean, this is the most pathetic thing to me, is that they are taking more time and more money to make manifestly inferior episodes to anything in the history of Doctor Who. And, like, you know, just go down the list. For just Modern Who, Russell T Davies did 4 14-episode years in a row, and then a year of specials. Took no breaks. Stephen Moffat did 5 13 to 14-episode years in a row, with the one thing of season 7 being split, but that also had the 50th anniversary, and then took a year off before season 12, which was 13 episodes, 12 plus the Christmas special. Chris Chibnall made one 10-episode season, and then they couldn't be bothered to make more episodes for the following year. I'm not trying to be like demanding, like, no, we need Doctor Who every year, but, you know, it's a show, it's a TV show. TV shows air every year. People have been able to do it on this show specifically for 55 years now, with that weird break in the middle in the 90s. And other than that, and this is the first one where it's like, 10 episodes, it's too hard to write 10 episodes where we have no characters or themes or ideas or interesting villains or any of that. It's just too hard. Like, It disappoints me that the BBC would not just say, you don't want to make the show? You're fired. We will find someone who will make the show. Like, that's kind of their job. And it's kind of his job if he wants to make the show. It's all so stupid. Yeah. And I'm not going to be there for it. I do not plan on watching more past this point. I'm out. If someone replaces Chris Chibnall, I will be back for it. I don't want to talk about it on the show. I don't see what more benefit we're going to get beyond the conversation we had here. I don't like talking about things that depress us this much on the show. This is just a personal philosophy of mine. There's too much of that on the internet. I want to talk about things we're enthusiastic about. And, you know, maybe in the year 2020, I will feel differently. Maybe we'll check out the New Year's special. But the last thing on earth I want to do right now is watch more Doctor Who from this creative team. It just depresses me too much.
Yeah, where I am at is one, I'm very curious. So I am going to keep watching it. Okay. I am not going to force you to watch it, and I'm not going to force us to talk about it on the podcast. If I do continue watching it, I will give updates, I'm sure, on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm in too deep.
I get it.
You haven't watched the John Nathan Turner stuff all the way through, so, you know, I still would take most John Nathan Turner over this season. I mean, this season's fucking dreadful. But there were some dark times there, and I watched it. I suffered through that, and I'm in way too deep to jump out now. So I'm definitely going to watch them, because the New Year's thing is just like in 2 weeks, which feels very weird. But yeah, I'm watching it as an obligation. I'm watching it as like an academic curiosity, in the way that, like, you know, when a couple of years ago we watched the Twin Dilemma. I think that was before Peter Capaldi came on. And we watched some first Doctor for episodes of the Doctor that were their first episodes, and we watched the Twin Dilemma. The only reason I watched that again was like, this will be an academic curiosity to go back and watch this god awful fucking episode of Doctor Who.
I enjoyed Twin Dilemma more than any episode this season. I'm not going to say it's better than certain episodes this season. I enjoyed it better. Colin Baker is a better character. Perry is a better character. I enjoy the Twin Dilemma. I would watch the Twin Dilemma again sooner than I would watch any episode this season. Period.
I think I'd probably agree with that. I mean, part of that is also just there are no expectations levied upon the Twin Dilemma, because it's a historical fact now, not like the show is not hanging on the Twin Dilemma. It's like, I can only imagine how Dyer would have felt going from the Caves of Androzani to fucking that.
But also, like, you would have just had the Caves of Androzani, and 2 serials from there you would have Vengeance on Varos, so it would be like, you know, mixed bag. You would not have had a sustained full season of inanity.
Yeah, then you don't get that until the Trial of the Time Lord. You're right. But yeah, it's So I will keep on watching Doctor Who, but it is not. I'm not usually looking forward to it. There's a part of me that says I not should, but I feel strangely compelled to rewatch this season just to see,
Don't
know.
do it. Don't do it,
just
Sean.
to know. Because I've done that for every season of Doctor Who we've talked about on this podcast, going all the way back to season 6. I have rewatched the season leading up to the finale, and I had originally been planning to do that for this season, because that's fucking Jesus Christ. I did that like 4 times. And multiple times because I did that with the whole thing leading up to Twice Upon a Time. I've rewatched a lot of modern Doctor Who because I find it interesting and it gives a different perspective to talk about on the podcast. And I was originally planning to do that for this episode, and then I realized at the end of It Takes You Away or whatever that the finale was a week away, and I was like, oh, I am not watching all 9 of these episodes within a week. That's suicidal at some point. And that realization was just like, oh my God. Like, I wasn't super enthusiastic about rewatching season 7 in front of Name of the Doctor, but I did it, and in some of those episodes I enjoyed more upon a second viewing, and now I actually like season 7 quite a bit. Season 2 is the worst season of modern Doctor Who outside of this one, ignoring this new one. Of that era of modern Doctor Who, season 2 was the worst. I would take 100 season 2s over this, man. Fucking Girl in the Fireplace all day, motherfucker. I don't care. I don't care if most of the other
fucking Love and Monsters all day.
Yes.
I remember the blowjob slab. Damn it! I'm not going to remember some from this season except the Doctor really loves corporations.
I mean, I'm going to say something that you're not going to like this statement, but honestly, I feel this way. I think It Takes You Away is about a Love and Monsters level of episode of Doctor Who.
I'm not invested in it. I'm not.
Yeah,
that does not offend me.
Because they're both mostly interesting to me because they are ambitious and experimental, but their executions are almost about as equally sloppy to me.
I don't disagree. It's just that It Takes You Away, like, I don't know, if you're in a fucking desert and the only water you find is filled with mud and horse shit, it's still a lot better than no water. That's what It Takes You Away is.
Yes.
If I can be graphic for a moment.
It's bad. So very quickly, Jonathan, you talked about this earlier about the Twitter. You made a Twitter list.
Yeah.
But we have, I feel maybe not for every single season, but for most seasons, I think at least season 7, we have made a list.
I'm usually the one instigating the list making. I don't want to make a list this time.
I knew you didn't want to make the list, and that's why I'm saying we have to make the fucking list, the podcast list. We've done this so many times.
I'm bringing up a Word document.
Yep. Okay, and I have a list of all the episodes in front of me. All 10. Right. It's only 10. We only have to list 10, Jonathan, so it's not as bad. So first thing we have to fight out, which one is better, Demons of the Punjab or It Takes You Away? I'm Demons.
Demons of the Punjab because it contributes something to our understanding of history and humanity. It shines a light on a period in history of the world that TV does not go too much, if at all, and it is valuable for that, if nothing else. And it has moments that are genuinely very good. Yeah.
The ending of Demons of the Punjab is the only emotional reaction I've had to anything in this entire season of Doctor Who.
Okay.
So that's my argument.
And then number 2 is It Takes You Away?
Yeah, number 2 is very handily It Takes You Away. Okay. Delivered entirely on the back of ambition and a pretty cool talking frog.
All right, let's go to the other end of the list. Kerblam versus the Battle of Rubba-Jibba-Booba-Bop.
I would say Kerblam is worse for me.
Oh man, it's
because it really depends on what you're talking about. Is like how defective a script is it? It's the Battle of I've legitimately already forgotten because I don't have that Wikipedia tab right in front of me. But if you're talking about which episode made me just livid with anger, it's still Kerblam.
I'll defer to that. I'm okay with that. I mean, Kerblam probably takes a bigger shit over the legacy of Doctor Who, although I think it's closer than you're giving it credit for.
It's close. I'm not saying that it's entirely a home run, but like just remember, Kerblam is a fucking episode that ends with the workers getting 2 weeks paid leave, but they're a month out of work. And it's an episode that thinks that that's a totally okay fucking thing to do. Like, the moral compass of Kerblam is not just, like, sociopathic. It's, like, venomous. And it's fuck that episode. Jesus Christ.
I would say... Arachnids
So we're saying 9 is Battle of...
Yeah.
Yes, Battle of Ranskor Avklus. There we go.
Okay. I would say the next worst to me is Arachnids in the UK. Would you argue with that?
Let's see. Because it's either Arachnids or it's the Surunga Conundrum.
Surunga Conundrum is better. It's got the guy giving birth is at least a charming character. And I liked the first 10 minutes where the Doctor is with the Captain. Arachnids of the UK has the fucking terrible Chris Noth performance, and the moment where the Doctor would rather torture a living creature for until the creature dies rather than just shoot it in the head.
Yeah, I definitely feel Arachnids in the UK was the turning point for us on this season of being oh shit. So yeah, I think I'll agree with you. We'll say Arachnids is number 8, and then Surunga is number 7. Is that good for you?
Let's look at these. So what are...
Okay.
Can you just give me the others so I have them in front of me?
Okay, so we have The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The Ghost Monument, Rosa, Arachnids, which we just did. We have Surunga Conundrum, Demons of Punjab, which we've done, Crippline we've done, The Witchfinders, Takes Away we've done, and then we've done the battle. So we have The Witchfinders, we have Surunga Conundrum, Rosa, Ghost Monument, and The Woman Who Fell to Earth.
So let me give you my initial reactions to all this, Sean.
Okay.
I think... So we have our number 1 and 2. I think Rosa is probably the third best, and I think Rosa is a horribly deficient episode of television that, frankly, is insulting in how little it understands the things it's talking about, but it's better than the other 4.
I will agree. I think Rosa is the third best episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you're talking about, okay, which one is the next worst? You're going Surunga Conundrum. I would say Witchfinders. I like Surunga Conundrum better than Witchfinders.
I don't think I can sign off on that one, man. Remember the part in the Surunga Conundrum where one of the main supporting characters that they introduced that they hinged a whole subplot on dies off fucking screen? Remember that bit? But
remember the part in the Witchfinders when the Doctor just lets a woman drown?
It's true, man.
Remember the part in the Witchfinders where it has a weird CGI alien at the end that comes out of a hole in the ground and King James is there as a sacrifice, but it doesn't really make sense, and then the Doctor goes boo with the sonic screwdriver, and then they're fine, and then King James is like, you guys are cool, and leaves? Yeah.
I mean, the villains of the Witchfinders, we didn't talk about this, are named the Morax, and they are witches that came out of a tree.
Yes.
So I don't know...
The Witchfinders is really bad. There are things... I think Surunga Conundrum, honestly, for me, is the best episode Chibnall wrote this season.
No, it's The Woman Who Fell to Earth is better than the Surunga Conundrum. Come on.
Woman Who Fell to Earth is longer. It's longer. If we're talking about what I want to rewatch, God, I don't know. It's 50 minutes of being kicked in the balls versus 65 minutes.
I think the thing for me with the Witchfinders is probably the lows are probably lower, but there's nothing in the Surunga Conundrum that even approaches the fundamental amusement I got out of James Cummings' performance.
All right, I'll give you. You were the one who wanted to make the list, so I'll give it to you. And then Witchfinders is number 6.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. For sure.
And then
that I will sign off on that one. So 7 is Surunga.
Yeah.
6 is the Witchfinders, which leaves us with 2. What are the 2 we haven't? So the 2 we haven't done are the Ghost Monument and the Woman Who Fell to Earth. And now that I'm thinking about the Ghost Monument, I'm wondering if that should be somewhere lower. Because the Ghost Monument's not a very good episode of Doctor Who.
I would put it above the Witchfinders. I would probably put Surunga Conundrum above Ghost Monument, but you and I have a disagreement on this. So, I mean, there's nothing to the Ghost Monument other than a kind of nice moment where she gets the TARDIS at the end, but then the TARDIS looks like shit on the inside, and it's just disappointing. I think if I rewatched the Ghost Monument, I would probably like it less. I definitely think Woman Who Fell to Earth is number 4 of these.
Yes, I think we could definitely agree on that one. That 4 is the Woman Who Fell to Earth.
But I think 5, 6, and 7, I could put those all in a hat and just.
I mean, this is definitely the point where you talked about in your tweet. That's these are so interchangeable. I think I'll be fine with saying that. Then the Ghost Monument is 5, Witchfinders is 6, and Surunga is 7.
I'm fine with that.
That's an acceptable.
I still think my tweet was the correct ranking of these, which is 1, 2, shit, kerblam.
I mean, so I wrote this list on a piece of paper, and when I did it, I tried to eyeball when we did the first two how many down would be 10, and I missed by one margin, and I feel like that margin is appropriate. So it's like the first four, which are either kind of okay, at least acceptable. I would say the first four episodes are acceptable episodes of Doctor Who for this season, which is Demons, It Takes You Away, Rosa, and The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Those are like in other seasons of Doctor Who, those would be the worst episodes, which make them the best episodes of this season. But below that line is just like unambiguous trash.
You would never get these in other seasons, right?
Yes, yeah. You would never find this. The only one that is like the weird one out of there is Kerblam, where you would find that in other seasons, but with the ending being the exact opposite of what it is.
Yes.
So yes, to restate our list, number 1 is Demons of the Punjab. Congratulations. I'm sorry that you had to be trapped in an episode of Doctor Who, but I'm glad that you got to be made. I found that episode I felt things at the end of that episode. Number 2 is It Takes You Away. Excellent use of frogs. Number 3 is Rosa. It was, wasn't as bad as the other ones.
I still think Rosa is, people outside of this podcast have not grappled with how bad Rosa is.
Yeah, I think it's slowly starting to come around. Remember, that was the 3rd episode of the season, so it's like it hadn't fully settled in, I think. Number 4 is The Woman Who Fell to Earth, an episode that is only mildly acceptable because it has, it just gets to introduce characters, which is always entertaining. So it's like, and it got to be enshrouded in a certain amount of mystique of like all the potential, which all went wasted. Number 5 is The Ghost Monument. Fuck off. Number 6 is Witchfinders. Fuck off. Number 7 is Strong Conundrum. Fuck off. Number 8 is Arachne's the UK. Fuck off. Number 9 is Battle of Ranskor Avklos. Fuck off. And number 10 is Kerblam. You can go fuck yourself.
All right, that's our review of Doctor Who Season 11. Kerblam, you can go fuck yourself, but really most of these episodes can go fuck themselves. This was bad. Sean, this was bad.
This was a bad season of television. See you in the New Year's.